Good morning, everybody. All right, little bit behind schedule. Me, not the count. The count is progressing very swimmingly. This is the Axiom-1 launch coverage. We're gonna be here for the duration. So, current clock is sitting at T-minus 3 hours 15 minutes 15 seconds here. So, I'm gonna. One rocket launch, two rocket launch, three rocket launch. No. Yeah, I'll switch this over to SpaceX coverage here. So, all right, here's the thing. Before I switch over to SpaceX coverage, I just want to say a little bit. This is the first commercial mission, all commercial mission to the ISS, that's a pretty big deal. Inspiration 4 was the first full commercial mission, period, with people on board. This is kind of like the follow-up to that. It's not affiliated with Inspiration 4, but Axiom is a private spaceflight to the ISS. So, not only did we get a crew launch today, but we get a new era of commercial spaceflight. So hopefully we make some good history today. So yeah, here, take a look. Well, that's nice. I appreciate what you're showing me right now. And Tochka, how you doing, buddy? And spaceflight in general. Yeah, it should be a good day. Should be a good day. AP, did you watch FP1 last night, dude? I stayed up. I watched FP1. I shouldn't have watched FP1. I didn't get much sleep. I didn't get much sleep, but it's fine. It's fine. Why does it look shorter? I think that's just the angle, Linus. Or the yep, no, yep. Yeah, no, it was good. It was worth it. Yo, I just arrived at the Cape for your first rocket launch. Nice, Harp. Yeah. You're in for a treat. Who's gonna take the pole? Ferrari looks pretty fast, man, but I don't know. It's gonna be either Ferrari or Red Bull, I think. But, AP, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say Ricardo. Even though I know that answer's wrong. I'm going to say Ricardo. Just because. All right. So, without further ado, I will
followed by the arming of the launch escape system. And once that arm is retracted and the escape system is armed, propellant loading on Falcon 9 will begin. At T-minus 5 minutes from launch, Dragon will be configured for what we call terminal count. And this is when Dragon's onboard computers take control of the spacecraft.
Limpod, right? You gonna play more railroads today? Yeah, I might.
And finally, at T0, Dragon and Falcon 9 will lift off from pads 39A. Roughly 12 minutes after liftoff, Dragon will separate from Falcon 9's second stage and spend the next 24 hours making its way to the International Space Station.
They'll stay up there.
I'm John.
John!
Falcon 9 Principal Engineer.
Gil, I'll tell you in a second. I'm not talking over John.
We're currently at T-minus 3 hours, 12 minutes, and everything looks good for an on-time launch later today. Now, as Kate mentioned, the crew received their weather briefing just after T-minus 4 hours. As you can see from the view here, blue skies around Kennedy Space Center, pad 39A. Probability of weather violations is down to just 10%. Mostly we're just looking at some wind. We've also checked the ascent corridor in case of a launch escape is needed by Dragon. The sea state conditions are acceptable there. And even in the emergency deorbit locations, everything is acceptable. So the weather's looking good. Now at pad 39A, the Falcon 9 is powered up. The engine checkouts were performed overnight, and pressurization of the gas storage tanks on the vehicle is completed about T-minus 6 hours. Now, T-minus 2 hours, Falcon will begin its final checks for launch, including a communication check with the crew, and propellant loading will begin at T-minus 35 minutes. Now, as with all of our launches to the International Space Station, we have an instantaneous launch window at 11:17 a.m. Eastern, or 15 hours, 17 minutes Universal Time. If for whatever reason we weren't able to launch today, our next opportunity will be just under 24 hours later on the 9th of April.
That puts us 15 minutes ahead of schedule.
Nice. They're 15 minutes ahead on the count.
Thanks, John. So we are just under 3 hours and almost 10 minutes before crew.
Axiom's a private spaceflight company. They're going to build space stations soon, AP.
In just a few minutes from the Falcon support building. John, as we wait for that, let's talk about any new traditions or celebrations for Axiom leading up to launch.
Yeah, of course. So as you know, and as you can imagine, this has been a pretty big milestone that many at Axiom Space have been working towards for years. So we wanted to find a moment to highlight all that effort and mark a new phase of this journey that we're on together.
Discovery.
So about 2 weeks ago, the Axiom family gathered together along with a crew and created a new tradition. And to mark the end of preparation of training phases and signify the first steps towards the operations phases, we held a first step to space ceremony at Axiom headquarters in Houston. Here's a quick highlight of that moment.
We're really excited to welcome you for the first ever crew send-off.
Are you all excited to be here? We really are excited. I am thrilled. Today is a moment of celebration.
You come work each day because you're doing something that makes a difference in the history of humanity. That's what you're all about. You're making a giant impact to human spaceflight.
This company is about to change the way the world thinks of human spaceflight. And you guys cannot imagine the impact that all of you are having really on history.
It's
Mikey.
ultimately the people at the front lines who make the difference. Do not underestimate your impact or your value.
Thank you really for the warm welcome coming from the other side of the world. I think this is a positive vibe, and hopefully that everyone will enjoy this effort.
It was really amazing how everybody stepped up. It's really about changing the world and about making the world a better place.
It's the beginning. We're about to have our missions.
We're
going to have our space station, and this is the beginning. And if that doesn't give you a little bit of chills, then you're probably in the wrong job.
Go X1!
So around that same time, we scanned the bottom of the right shoe of each of the crew's flight suit and created what we're calling the Stepping to Space tradition. The crew will sign this finished plaque once they return from their mission. So you can see there, that's the plaque with their shoes imprinted, and it's been milled out. It's got the mission patch on it. Crew's going to sign that.
Oh, I like that.
That's super cool. Yeah. Obviously, so we're in Northern California, kind of close to Hollywood. Seeing that kind of reminds me of the area in front of the Chinese theater where movie stars get to put their handprints and footprints in. I like that one better. That one's pretty cool.
It's
a space one.
Exactly. It's a pretty unique space one. A little cleaner maybe too.
That's super cool. So we're hearing that we're just a couple minutes away from being able to see the crew for the first time today. They are currently suiting up inside the Falcon support building, or FSB.
This guy.
That's basically the hangar close by to the launch pad.
Okay.
The team is in there with the closeout team. Excuse me, not the closeout team. The suit.
Countdown. We're at T-minus 3 hours 7 minutes. Crew suit donning is complete.
Okay, crew's got the suits on. Remains ahead of schedule.
Ahead of schedule. Now you might hear check-ins with the team indicating what kind of margin that we have with our countdown basically, and proceeding up to launch. We do build in margin so that if we are running a little bit behind or a little bit ahead, it's all good basically.
Yeah, and a lot of those calls that you hear, those are clear steps in the procedure as you can imagine this day.
We're 3 hours out, guys. This is a crew launch. I don't get to do this very often, and that's why I'm here at 10 past 8 in the morning for me. I mean, it's 10 past 8 in the morning for the crew as well, but, I mean, these guys over here, it's math. What is it, 5:10 in the morning? That's nice. So, yeah, we get to see the crew. The crew has all their suits on. We get to see them go to the pad. We get to see them get in the spacecraft. It's gonna go fast. If you sit here and you're with me for the duration, this is going to go quick. Did you know there was an 8 a.m. not just p.m.? Oh, yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I should be sleeping right now. Robert, how are you? So, yeah, we're T-minus 3 hour 5 here Ooh. I wonder. This is where the crew is going to come out here. They didn't show crew suit up and suit checks, but they're going to walk out and they're going to get to the pad. Once the crew gets inside of the spacecraft, like I said, these 3 hours will blaze by real fast. At least that's the case with the crew mission. So, morning, Vasya. Good afternoon, buddy. How are you? Diagonalizer. 9-month resub. Thanks, man. So, let's I'll key in the audio again and we'll see what we got here. I like the mission patch. It's really cool.
We also have the flight surgeon and closeout leads riding along in the Teslas along with our...
Yeah, that's right. They didn't show the suit up for inspiration either. Okay. So,
and you mentioned, Kate, riding the Teslas to the launch pad. It's a bit of a decent walk, I think, if they had to walk to the pad. But
here we go.
And there they are. We're getting our first look at the Axiom-1 crew as they exit.
I'm clapping alone in my room. I don't care.
We can see there Michael Lopez,
Hell yeah.
Connor, Eitan Stiba, and Mark Pathy.
This is our first live look at the Axiom-1
Pad
crew
Ninja.
suited up for their mission to the International Space Station.
Oh, that guy came out the door and he's like, "Oh crap, they're taking pictures."
They're getting a few photos together. They
Morning,
look
Frilled.
ready.
Storm.
What do you think they're saying? 3, 2, 1.
That's perfect.
What?
I think they're saying, guys, we have worked so hard to get to this point, and let's go do this.
Yeah. That's great. So now they're going to hop into those Teslas. It's about a
Made in Texas,
2,000-foot
baby.
Drive or walk if you wanted to,
Yeah.
but we want to keep everybody cool and comfortable before hopping into their spaceship. So we are going to drive them up to the pad from Falcon Support Building.
And as you saw on your left side of the screen,
Where is this launching from? This is going from launch pad 39A. So that's Florida. Kennedy Space Center, man. This is historically, this pad had, 87 shuttle launches on it. And I think it's 6 flights to the moon. 7. Apollo 10, Apollo 10 was, when I go from 39B, 7. So there's 8, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 8. Yeah. And also, it was the first
Discovery.
it was the pad that people first launched on a Dragon capsule in back in May of 2020 on the DM2 mission. It's hosted 3 NASA missions on SpaceX rockets and 1 commercial mission on a SpaceX rocket. That's the inspiration for this mission. Axiom, the AX-1 mission, is a commercial mission to the ISS. So this is not, it's on NASA property, but this is all SpaceX. Axiom paid SpaceX to launch these people to the ISS. And they're going to basically pay NASA to do science on the ISS for a week. But here we go. Crew's rolling out from the Falcon Support Building here. The Falcon Support Building is on Roberts Road. Or no, this isn't Roberts Road. This is this is right next to the pad because you can see the old crawlerway right there. So these guys are going to go out here and then they're going to take a right. Basically right into the BDA. Hey, that guy blew a stop sign. What? Hey, get back here. They're gonna make their way up to the pad here. You'll see the SpaceX horizontal integration facility where they put the Falcon 9 stacks together. Should be right here on the left. Yep, there it is. Bird. That's where they put the rockets in for integration here, and you're going to get up to a gate right here at 39A, and that's the gate to what's called the BDA. The BDA is the outer boundary of the launch pads. That gate right there. It's called the blast detonation area. I don't think I need to tell you why that's there. Blast detonation area. I know it's early, but yeah. Got a bunch of cranes parked there. There's a couple of airport tugs. Those are the tugs that they use to move the transporter erector to the pad. They're going to drive up the old crawlerway here. And then once they get to the top of this big ramp, they should take a left, cross the crawlerway tracks, and park right over here. There's the transporter erector. The transporter erector is obviously has the rocket in the upright position. I don't know if you guys knew. The rocket needs to be pointing up to go to space. I know. Hard concept. But there it is. And there's the spacecraft up at the top with the crew access hour in the swung out position. Yep.
The Wright brothers once said that the desire to fly has been handed down from our ancestors, looking up enviously at the birds soaring through space. And I just want to say it's now your time to be the envy of the birds as you soar higher and further than most of us could ever dare.
Birds don't exist.
Good luck and Godspeed, AX-1.
All right, so they're going to stop here.
So awesome to see.
They're going to take a pee break.
From the
Seriously.
Axiom teams.
Core on countdown 1.
Oh.
We're at T-minus 2 hours, 59 minutes. Crew have arrived at the pad. We are ahead of schedule.
So the crew operations response engineer reporting crew has gotten to the pad here slightly ahead of schedule. They're running about 15 minutes ahead of schedule, which is good. It's better to be up on the timeline. You don't want to get behind. It's important that a lot of things go right, and it pays to be pays to do your due diligence and be expedient with this stuff. Basically, make sure it gets done. Make sure it gets done right. And if you can do that and be ahead of your schedule, then you're good to go.
They've seen the rocket up close before, but not on launch day.
And not quite like this. I think it's a completely different feeling.
You really get the scale when you see them stand next to it,
for the first time on launch day, right? You do the rehearsal, but today is completely different. Right? You can see them there enjoying it. They are ready to go. That looks like Aton there giving a good dance.
I mean, you can just feel his excitement through the camera lens.
Exactly. Well, and I think it really highlights the fact that this really is a return to flight for Israel, and the amount of work that each of these crew members have done to prepare for this mission has been outstanding.
So Aton is the first Israeli to go into space since Ilian Ramon in January 2003. Unfortunately, Ilian Ramon was on the Columbia, and that didn't end well. So Aton has he has what's left of Ilian Ramon's diary, so that's pretty cool. That makes me pretty happy. We're rectifying some past errors there. It's good. It's good. Good step in the right direction. Okay, here we go. Foreign object debris critical area. I know somebody's wondering.
Flew out of this pad after the Saturn V program ended, and we just saw MLA and
surfing.
Mark, That's great.
Yeah. Or is that an Elvis? Look out, man!
SpaceX took over the lease for this launch pad in 2014. We did.
I want to know what he's saying.
General refurbishments to
I'm going to space now. Bye.
Rotating service structure, but
that's what I'd say.
Here, this is still the fixed service structure that exists.
EJ, you're about to launch into space. What are you going to do? I'm going to Space World. Bye. Look out, man. I have become space. No. All right.
In the tower, we don't mark it by level numbers. There we can see that they have exited the elevator.
You got to go 2 by 2 because the way they fit in the damn elevator.
Up, the rest of the service structure.
Yep.
MLA had
there's 2 Americans, 1 Canadian, and an Israeli.
The tower, they're looking back down.
He's allowed.
He's allowed.
2 Americans, 1 Canadian, and 1 Israeli walk into a spacecraft. The spacecraft launches and it makes it home in one piece. Duh. Jeez. Ugh.
Yeah, so they're going to go up to the 255.
Get your mind out of the gutter, chat.
And then right there, we can see them ascending the final 10 feet.
What about the Spanish flag? So that's Michael Lopez Alegria. He's an American of Spanish descent. If you haven't read about MLA, he's pretty good, pretty cool dude. He flew a shuttle a lot. Yeah, a lot of times. Oh yeah. He's a pretty awesome astronaut. You guys want to see? Here. This guy is... I'm pretty sure he has a wallet that says BAMF on it. Here, it's going to be small, but... So he flew STS-73, STS-92, STS-113, Soyuz TMA-9, and then now Axiom-1. He's been to space 4 times. One for an extended duration stay on Expedition 14, which is... That's pretty awesome. And then you guys can't really see it, but... Wow, he has like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He's about 70 hours of EVA experience. Wow, yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty neat. Yeah, that's pretty neat. Yeah, he's pretty cool. Pretty cool dude. Yeah, no big deal. Yeah, he flew on the shuttle a bunch of times, and yeah, he's commanding this mission. Not a bad guy. Not a bad guy to command this mission, if I do say so myself. Like, you know, it's pretty awesome. How long will the crew be on the ISS? This is a short duration stay. Short duration stay. It should be. It's 10 days is what's planned. 10 days. Yep. All right, I'm gonna unmute here.
Yeah, as you mentioned before.
How many astronauts have flown on a shuttle, a Soyuz, and a Dragon? Doug Hurley. Oh no, Doug never flew on Soyuz. Let's see. The gentleman from Japan has. Not Wakata. He flew on the Crew 1 mission. I'm blanking on his name because it's early. Soichi Noguchi. Noguchi has flown on the shuttle, Soyuz, and Dragon. Yep. Hideo Kojima. No. I mean, maybe, but no, that's I don't think that's the same, man. I think that's different. Good answer, though. Soichi Noguchi has flown on all 3. I'm trying to think. I'm turning the pages in my head. I don't. There is others. There's not many though. Seriously, there's not many. Dwayne Johnson. I don't think he's an astronaut. I mean, that guy's cool, but I don't think he's an astronaut. May not be consecutive, but here's the 3 years. Thanks, Demo. Dude, I get it. Life happens, bro.
Looks like one of our crew members is making that call. We think it's hard to tell.
I saw earlier Aton leaning over the balcony, I think just taking everything in.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
What a beautiful day.
Shane Kimbrough, Aki Hoshide, Tom Marshburn. Thanks, Thomas.
Might be.
Have any of them done interviews about the different ascent between the 3 rockets? Yeah, they asked Soichi Noguchi, King. That's actually a really good question. They asked Soichi Noguchi about it. Like, how does Dragon compare to Soyuz and the shuttle, right? He said that, I think he said that the shuttle was the most violent ride because SRBs. But after the SRBs separate, it's really smooth. Soyuz is a smooth ride. Smooth ride all the way to space because liquid fuel. Dragon is, he said that SpaceX's Dragon was the most comfortable, though. I mean, Soyuz is basically a gym locker that flies into space with people on board. So, you ever got stuffed in a locker in high school? Imagine being in the locker and then going into space. You know. What did he rip off the ground crew? Mission patch.
We see MLA and Mark right there walking towards their capsule right now. They'll be ingressing first. And soon we should be able to get a good shot here as crew waits ingress.
The Soyuz capsule was originally supposed to hold 2 people, and it was originally supposed to go to the moon. But after they canceled the N1 program, the Soviets switched it to going into low Earth orbit, and they put 3 people on it instead. So it's a little crowded in there, but hey, it gets you to space. I mean, this also gets you to space, though.
Removing the gloves here to take that Sharpie and add their name.
That's so cool.
So this is an opportunity for all astronauts that depart
So
39A
on the left side is all the NASA astronauts that have flown on Dragon here. And then on the right side is the X. So that's all of SpaceX's astronauts, all the private astronauts that have flown. On the right-hand side with the black X, you can see the 4 names of the Inspiration 4. So that's Rook Isaacman, Haley Arsenault, Cyan Proctor, Chris Zimbrowski. They're on the right. And then Crew 1, Crew 2, and Crew 3 are on the left. Pretty awesome, man.
The closeout leads there, the suit technicians.
And it's customary to take the patch of the ground crew, put it on the spacecraft on the dashboard. They did that during the shuttle era, and that's a tradition that goes back to Gemini, if I'm remembering right.
Doing the
hey, all right.
egress checks, making sure that all the zippers are closed.
Hey, Purple Pie, what's up?
Making sure that the boot covers have been removed from their boots.
That sounds right, Big Zig.
Protecting the protective cap that's on top of the umbilical port.
We got a major frame drop. It seems fine
if
now.
If it were raining, obviously it's a
I see it.
It's a beautiful day in Florida.
Yeah.
And if it were raining, this would also be the opportunity that we would wipe the boots down before anybody enters.
So
they're also just reminding.
If you're wondering what the slinky tube is for right there, they keep positive pressure. This is ground systems, positive pressure inside of the spacecraft. Long story short, they're pumping air inside of Dragon to basically try to inflate it like a balloon. It doesn't inflate it like a balloon, but they're trying to fill it up and create a draft to make sure that no dust and stuff gets in. Because dust in the spacecraft, dust when it's on the ground, just dust it off, right? In space, the dust just floats around, and foreign object debris could just float around, and it what can go wrong will go wrong. So it'll find something that you don't like, and it'll cause some ruckus in the spacecraft. So they keep the spacecraft at positive pressure. They basically blow air into it, and it makes a draft, pushing the air out. It's called positive pressure. Make sure that no dirt or anything gets in. Yeah, belt fed, right? How old are these guys? This crew's got some experience, Brewster. No, they got some experience. It's a private crew, so they paid. I did the same with my PC case. It's actually, that's a good idea. All right. So they took the tube out because you don't want to get stuff in the way of these spacesuits. They're a little bit. They look pretty sleek, but they are a little bit bulky because it's a spacesuit. So you want to make sure that you don't ding up the suit or anything. Okay. MLA's getting into the commander's position.
So basically, they get in their seats.
Buckle up.
Obviously, you got to buckle up.
Stop copying me.
It's like Mark Pathy is now in his seat. So that suit technician will help them. It's more than just a seatbelt.
Is their mission a Taurus mission, or do they have actual preparation missions for Axiom? This is the first of many Axiom missions to the space station, believe it or not, guys. They're eventually going to put modules up there. Axiom will attach commercial modules to the ISS eventually, And then when the ISS meets its demise, they'll separate those modules and Axiom will make their own space station. So this is the first of a bunch of increasingly complicated commercial Axiom missions to the ISS and then eventually to their own space station. Yeah, it's pretty awesome, actually.
You know, they're allowed to kind of sit back in some chairs to kind of see how do these chairs feel. And I think you told me something interesting about, you know, the seats on these dragons.
EJ, isn't the air blowing out of the Dragon? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, how do you get air to blow out of the Dragon if you're not putting it in there with the tube?
Go and throttle up.
The tube makes it. The tube makes it do that. Why? Because, well, the HVAC systems on Dragon are not powered up right now. You don't want to power them up because that's a closed loop system and you have a door open. It's like having the air conditioning on with your windows down. You're not doing anything. Aton's psyched. Yeah, he's pretty pumped. Are you going to bed after this? No, I'm up. Hey, Hokey, tier 3. Morning.
But also for, you know, effective use inside.
Belfed's like, I do that. That's very inefficient. How dare you? Sorry. I'm gonna get kicked in the nuts one of these days, man.
But also they're comfortable. You know, they have movement and range to, you know, interface with the displays and everything else expected of their roles while in orbit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Warline, she's been reused. So is the booster, dude. It's
like we're just.
It's been a little bit since DM2, huh? Yeah. Dude, they fly reused dragons. There's 4 dragons in the fleet. Hell yeah. There's 4 dragons in the fleet, and they fly on reused boosters. The Starlink mission that we saw go off the other day, booster flew 7 times. It flew crew into space twice. This one has flown 4 times. This will be its 5th flight. Imagine that. How did we get here? It seems like DM2 was like yesterday. That was 2 years ago. SpaceX has flown 5 missions. DM2, Crew 1, Crew 2, Crew 3, Inspiration 4. They've flown 5 crew missions into space in 2 years. That's good for anyone. That's good for anything. Like, okay. Same capsule as DM2, so we got Dragon Endeavor here. Nice. That's pretty neat. Wow, look at that. A Dragon capsule. You can tell it's a Dragon capsule because of the way it is. Notice the mission patches. Nice touch. Yeah, I did, Oki. It's pretty good. Fangzor, what's up, man?
International Space Station, and it was the first time.
And they will fly another 2 this month alone. Yep. This is the content I subscribe for. Good. Yep.
Since the
Now,
retirement
that's pretty neat.
of the space shuttle program. So I
Yep.
just
See,
I love
gotta
this
keep that
capsule.
positive
I've been
pressure in
inside
there.
of it. In my previous role, I was in the production organization, and so I was in this
That's
capsule
cool.
when we were building it, and it's very near and dear to my heart. So I love being able to see it reused.
Need some RGB lighting. Yeah, it'll make it go faster. It'll give it more delta V.
That's a reason that, you know,
You can tell it's a Dragon because it's working.
Private, you have to have that type of reusability, right? And I think seeing those 2 patches on
Hey, Nino, what's up, dude?
really is a testament to the success and the importance of reusability, but also, you know, showcasing the pedigree of this vehicle. It's been put through its paces. It's been tried out.
Yeah, huge grid. It's pretty cool.
Loves flying it, from what I understand.
The interior Dragon, they tried to get away from kind of the Spartan interiors of spacecraft of the past. It's supposed to be sleek. It's supposed to look like what you'd expect a spacecraft in 2022 to look like. Which is pretty cool. Very aesthetic. I like it.
Suit Techs, the closeout team on the SpaceX side, are doing final check.
Here you go.
It's a nice little shout out.
Here, I'm gonna give us a little bit of a fast forward here. Prepare to fast forward. Preparing to fast forward. Fast forwarding, sir. Would massage chairs be too much? I mean, you wouldn't feel anything with the spacesuit, but... Quick note. on this Falcon 9. The booster is 1062.5 and flew GPS 3 SVO4, SVO5, Inspiration 4, and Starlink 4.5. Cord dis. Okay. Yeah, we should be able to do that predominant.
See a cascading plane of blue representing Earth's atmosphere and highlighting the journey humanity has taken to get to this new chapter. Above the ISS, 4 bright stars, anchored by an atom in the center, create a constellation marking the mission's scientific and aspirational objectives. And then finally, the golden border around the patch represents the significance of this mission to the people of Israel, inspired by the logo of the Rakia banner.
Up, we got the Dragon tablets ready to go. Checklists are on the tab over there.
MLA accessing his crew tablet, where he is able
What kind of meals do you get on this flight?
Monitor mission status and follow along with our procedures.
I'm not 100% sure, Atomic. I think it's derived from NASA. Oh, I'm sorry.
Amazing view of pads 39A.
It's NASA.
39B in the background there. Gosh, what a gorgeous day in Florida.
Yeah, it's looking like a perfect launch day.
I like that part. I like that part that they just showed. I'm quite fond of this.
Looking at the launch vehicle there,
it's
you can see that,
they learned from NASA about the food. I'm pretty sure it's derived from the
bottom half
kind of formulas that the Johnson Space Center use.
In addition
Johnson
to
Space Center uses. So like NASA, which is basically derived from MREs, from what I understand. It's kind of like meals ready to eat. I mean, MREs are good. Give me that beef stew. Beef stew is the best one. You're not going to change my mind.
Just a few months ago.
Hell yeah, Ryan. I'm not missing a space flight, dude. What are you, nuts?
Testament to that reusability that we talked about. Without this, these private astronaut missions wouldn't be possible.
Yeah. So far, SpaceX has completed
32
Dragon missions, including 29 visits to the International Space
Station. Yeah,
Station.
Robert. Dude, SpaceX, I'm telling you guys, SpaceX has a presence at GDC every year. And they've been doing it for like 10 years. Game Developers Conference. SpaceX poaches people from the video game industry. So if you work in UX, right? SpaceX, you could get a job at SpaceX working on the Dragon interface or Starship. Who knows what the screens are going to look like for that thing? Yeah, they poach people from the games industry all the time. You know why? Because gaming UIs have to work, right? Because if they don't, oh, believe me, they'll hear about it. It's like when Strimmer gets something wrong. Oh, I'll hear about it. Don't worry. I'll hear about it. Oh, yeah. You ever think about that? Gaming UIs have to freaking work. If they don't, you're screwed. Like, have you ever had a bad UI from a video game? I mean, sometimes, right? But for the most part, no. Right? Oh, believe me, they'll let you know, Grab Shark. Strimmer, well, actually, Strimmer, please, excuse me, Mr. Strimmer, you were wrong for sure. You're right? Wait. Someone tell this man that gaming UIs are unrelated to JavaScript. And game development is unrelated to spacecraft engineering. Oh, wait, no, it's not, Brimo. Destroyed.
It's pretty
Destroyed.
In terms of the role that sits where. So if you look at the two center seats, the left center seat, always the pilot, the right center seat is always
Giesen, I said sometimes, okay?
And then, as I like to call them, the window seats, which would be where I would definitely want to fly, are for our mission specialists.
And those window seats are great.
Wait, what are you doing up?
But as we alluded to before, and as we can see through, all of the procedural checks being followed today, discussing crews training, we know that they have a breadth of mission objectives. This is really more than just a trip to space. These guys have a very, very large set of
destroyed by confusion. Primo hurt herself in her confusion.
They've been training hard. They plan, they train, they fly.
Yeah.
And
think it,
really,
dream it, do it. No, wait, that's something else.
Everybody's got a role to play here, and it doesn't stop once you get on orbit. They're going to keep on going.
For sure. Yeah, just like on orbit, everything is scheduled, choreographed. Same thing on the ground. Yeah, the procedures that we're following today, as we've said before, we've rehearsed this.
What are you doing up? People are launching into space. I'm the guy who does his job. You must be the other guy.
At various training centers. So while it is the first time that we can say it's launch day, but it's not the first time that they've been in these suits. It's not the first time that they.
Oh yeah, Omega Speedmasters. Great watch.
Is well planned. No surprises. That's the goal.
Exactly. Looks like we're getting some final.
Perfect Florida morning.
With the outfitting team.
Anybody that's ever lived in Florida, you know this morning. Sunny, 70, not too humid yet, but there's dew everywhere. Everywhere. You're anticipating the humidity. I know these types of mornings. I had to wake up at the crack of dawn many times to go to school down there. So, yep. I know this morning. Yep. The humidity ain't in the air just yet. It will be, though. Oh, yeah. I am guy who make cover of launch. You are a guy who make looking at TV. Yes.
Larry's excitement early in the day, even as
man, can somebody pressure wash the damn pad?
Complete at a certain point and you're waiting, I don't think the excitement's going to be dying down.
So in that shot on the left, you can actually see the Falcon support building just behind the hangar. So that kind of gives you perspective of how far the crew journeyed in their suits in those Teslas.
Fellas, looks like Starship paraphernalia over there.
If you're going to be in that suit all day long, it may not be.
Elon 10.
Yeah. I've made that walk many times, and not in a spacesuit, but can confirm it's a
pile driver.
The incline up to the pad.
So over here is Starships. That's going to be a Starship pad. See the footing for the pad over there? There's a pile driver there, meaning that something big is going to go right there. Oh, yeah. That should be right here. Those positions should be swapped.
So, it's just so cool to see the next era of human spaceflight being ushered into reality from this, hollowed ground.
Yeah, exactly.
Discovery.
Okay. Did 10 subs. Thanks, guys. Thanks, guy. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
So right now,
thanks, guy.
Is,
thanks, buddy.
On their tablets and doing final checks with the closeout leads.
Thanks, man.
Which are the SpaceX team members that you can see there. Once again, making sure.
I don't know, Jim. That's what I was trying to figure out the other day.
Is, secure, making sure that everybody's.
Silver Spirit gifted a sub, and then Predominant gifted 20. Oh gosh. Okay. Oh, we're doing this.
Zippers are closed.
The TED just sure seems close to the pad. Yeah, the flame deflector is.
They don't have to have their visor.
The flame deflector is fine. You could put stuff here. You could put stuff here. It's just stuff like right in this area here that you really don't want to put anything right in here. Not here or here so much, but right here is where you don't. Anything you put there, you're gonna lose. Thanks, Predominant. Thanks for the 20 subs. Dova Spirit had 1, and then Hokie had 10 in there. I appreciate it, guys.
Which is same stuff that scuba divers use in their
Discovery. Go at throttle.
Just Space. Hey man. Hey, what's up? Great day for a launch. Oh, it's perfect. Just Space. This looks perfect, dude. Conditions. It looks beautiful morning in Florida. Uh-oh. Oh, jeez. Oh, gosh. Hokie gifted 10. You guys doing this? Please don't fight in chat.
For sure.
Hey, all right. What a shot.
Axiom-1 crew getting ready for
Me too, Porter. Me too.
And seat rotation. I just love seeing these 4 guys interact with each other.
Aton's like, no. I'm giving the thumbs up. Oh, wait, okay.
You can see that the
Aeronaut had a sub in there and then 50. 50.
Also, and they just seem like such a fun group. I love seeing Aton dancing earlier.
Why are you doing this?
While he was looking at the rocket from the ground.
Now, my day is pretty good, man. I don't know about you.
How can you not bond with the kind of training that they've gone through, right?
Thanks, KSP. I'm glad you like it.
This mission means to each of them.
What's the YouTube channel you're watching on? Yeah, if you don't want to hear my crappy commentary over it here, I'll link up the channel as well.
but they've really come to bond
Yeah.
over their course of training.
Discovery,
Yeah, so
go
the
at
top
throttle
part
up.
of what
Oh
we see
God,
there
Eshap
is
gifted
the
5,
pressurized
and then
section of
FX
Dragon.
gifted
That's where our
20.
crew is seated.
House fun.
The bottom portion that's half black, half white, that's the Dragon trunk. That is the
Thanks,
unpressurized
guys.
section.
Discovery.
Torlab 56, let's go, man. Thank you. A lot of throttling up today.
To deliver power to the capsule while on orbit and on station. That trunk will go up to the space station, but then in 10 days when the crew departs the space station, we will actually jettison the trunk.
And then Hokie with 6 more, and then Pembo with bits.
That allows for the heat shield.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Okay. MLA
All right, so that was
doing a comm check there.
MLA.
Yeah. Looks like we're ready for
Isaac.
Dragon, good morning. Stand by for umbilical comm checks.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Okay. They're gonna do 3
on the right-hand side of your
They're gonna do 3 types of communications here to make sure that all 3 comm loops are working. On the right, you have SpaceX Core, so Crew Operations Response Engineer. He's going to be communicating with the crew through the umbilicals, which is what you just heard. And then they're going to go through the ground station loop. And then they're going to... I don't know if they're going to do TDRS. They might, because this is going to the ISS. So they might be using the NASA's tracking data and relay system. We'll listen in. Thank you guys for all the subs. I do appreciate it.
CLT, loud and clear. MS1, loud and clear. MS2, loud and clear.
Let's do this.
And Core, loud and clear. Umbilical comm check is now complete. Stand by for ground station comm check.
Okay, they're going through the ground stations now. So they're going to switch over to communication via ground stations, make sure Dragon's antenna is working correctly. Who's the astronaut? Michael Lopez Alegria. Flew 4 shuttle missions and a Soyuz flight. Or no, 3 shuttle missions, a Soyuz flight, and Axiom-1 is his first Dragon flight. That's correct, Q. Hey, you're pretty neat. Oh, well, that's pretty neat. Thanks, guys. Thank you for all the bits. I appreciate it. I wanted to hear the comm loop, so I muted the alerter for a second. It did, username, I'm pretty sure. I know, Porter. It's pretty crazy, huh? Bryce, what's going on?
Dragon, SpaceX, comm check.
SpaceX Endeavor,
go at throttle up.
Laser.
Core, loud and clear. Ground station comm check is complete. Stand by for TDRS comm check.
Okay, there's the TDRS comm check. Should be coming in a second here. Those beeps that you're hearing are called Kindar tones. Kindar tones are basically... It's like when you're in Discord and somebody, cues their mic, it makes a noise, right? Or if you have that disabled, it doesn't. The Kindar tones are basically there to show somebody's cueing the microphone. Did you start streaming at T-minus 2:52? I picked up the count at T-minus 3 hours, 15 minutes. Right after SpaceX started. Around 50 minutes ago, give or take. Yeah, Draco, we're going to need it today. Today's going to be a long stream. This is how you crowdfund a new house.
Dragon, SpaceX comm check.
Okay, so now they're using NASA's tracking data and relay satellites. This
SpaceX Endeavor, loud and clear on TDRS.
This comm loop is going through NASA's tracking satellites in
comm check is complete.
geosynchronous
Stand by
orbit.
for comm checks with MD and LD in the launch configuration.
Okay, they're going through comm. That was with
Dragon, SpaceX on countdown 1, comm check.
Okay, that's the launch director, or LD for short.
Good morning, Anna. I hear you loud and clear.
Good morning. I hear you loud and clear as well.
24 hours,
Stand by
Swishio.
for comm check over Dragon to ground.
Okay.
Dragon MD on Dragon to ground, comm check.
Okay, no, that's the mission director, not the launch director.
Loud and clear on Dragon to ground also. Good morning.
Okay, now the mission
MD
director.
loud and clear. Stand by for comm checks with LD.
Okay. Going through the launch director.
Dragon LD on countdown 1. Comm check.
Hype director. HD.
Hey, Mark, good to be with you this morning. You're loud and clear.
And good morning to you too, Michael. I have you loud and clear. Stand by for comm check over Dragon to ground. Dragon LD on Dragon to ground. Comm check.
Launch director on the ground loop.
LD. Endeavor, you're still loud and clear.
And LD, loud and clear. Godspeed the day, fellas. Let's go have some fun.
Indeed.
Endeavor SpaceX launch configuration comm checks are now complete. Please report when ready for seat rotation per section 2 of 4.100.
Okay, seats are going to move in the upright position. So the seats on Dragon, they're actually, you know, in the upright position like a chair, like you're sitting down right now, right? But the spacecraft's pointed that way. So watch the seats here. They're going to move to the next step, which is to prepare Dragon for flight configuration here. And first step to doing that is rotating the seats into the upright position. The seats are going to go upright, and they're going to face the direction of the spacecraft. That is a Speedmaster watch that MLA has. This is aesthetic as frick, dude. Look at those suits, man. It's pretty damn cool. You can see the, that's the camera that we keep seeing, that they show the consoles with right there. There's another camera that's, yep, see, this camera. And then there's another camera that's between, I think it's Michael and Larry right there, that's facing towards the consoles. And also, if you notice, MLA has a mirror on his left hand. There's a mirror right there. You know what that is? Rearview mirror. Why? Why does he need a rearview mirror? Well, how's he going to look behind him in that spacesuit? Seriously, they got mirrors on their arms. They got a little mirror right here.
Just over T
you wanna,
minus 2
wanna
hours,
look behind you?
23 minutes
Just
to
look at your
launch.
hand.
Everything continued to go well.
I haven't watched it yet, B-Money.
Right now, showing the Axiom crew inside the spacecraft. About another minute or so, we ought to begin the seat rotation.
Dragon SpaceX, we are ready to initiate seat rotation.
What's behind them, though? It's not just for when they're inside of the spacecraft. It's for when they're on the ground and stuff, too. How long is the flight? 24 hours up to the ISS?
SpaceX advanced team is outside of the capsule. They'll watch.
It's going to be 24 hours up to the ISS, and they're going to spend about 10 days on the ISS. Watch. Okay, here we go. Stand by for seat rotation. Are you standing by or are you sitting by? I'm asking the important questions here. There we go. Seat rotation, it has been initiated.
Nice view watching the
that's pretty neat.
Crew displays above them.
That's pretty cool.
For a launch.
That's pretty freaking cool.
Recline.
That's so cool. Oh, that's sick. Rotate the chairs, Hal. I'm not sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can do that. That's pretty neat.
Dragon SpaceX, seats are in the launch position.
Okay.
Thanks, Doctor.
Where's your rotating chair? I don't have
Hey, that's
one.
what we like to hear. Seats are in the launch position.
That's pretty neat.
We're just over 2 hours, 21 minutes away from the launch of Axiom-1. And as you can see, the 4-person crew is in the Dragon spacecraft. They've just completed their communications checks with the ground team. Those checks verified that the communication umbilical is...
It is a tablet.
With that, I can give you a go to step through Section 3, suit leak check preparation.
Okay. I'm going to test the suits for leaks here. So, this is Commander Michael Lopez Alegria, or MLA for short. He's got a checklist on his thigh there.
You can see them closing the visors,
Okay.
They'll do a short, just a few-minute check to make sure the suit integrity is
That's
good.
right, Just
While they're doing that,
hey, Racer. What's going on, man?
Recap. We did hear the communications checks about 5 minutes ago.
What's that,
Went through
Draco?
3 different paths. The umbilical that's hooked up to the Dragon spacecraft, that separates right at liftoff. Comms with
I like
to
that.
the ground team. We also did
That's pretty
communications checks through the radio frequency transmitters, as well as the
Unix.
tracking and data
Oh, no,
relay
Linux,
satellite
not
that's up
Unix,
in
but Rooster.
geosynchronous orbit.
Dragon uses
All the
Linux.
comm checks were good. Meanwhile, back in Mission Control, we heard the Dragon team also doing the comm checks. Mission Control Center is located here in SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. Meanwhile, out at Kennedy Space Center.
Okay. MLA is communicating that, indicating that the crew is ready for suit leak checks.
Sounds like we've got good suit leak checks. As I said, at Kennedy Space Center, we've got the Falcon and Dragon launch teams. They're in firing
Speedmaster,
room 4.
reindeer.
Got a great view of the pad on a good weather day.
Copy, Dragon. With that, I'll give you a go for Section 4 suit leak checks.
Ah, sorry.
It's John. You don't. Yeah, no, you don't need to apologize. It's all good.
There we go. Call out to actually begin the timer. Speaking of the weather, you can see on the left screen the Dragon spacecraft with the crew access arm, blue skies, some light clouds overhead. Weather's very
Perfect
good today.
day.
Probability of violation continues at 10%. Mostly that just winds, but nothing really to be concerned about. And the trajectory out over the eastern seaboard of the U.S. headed northeast also looks acceptable. And so the good news is weather is cooperating. Launch
Yeah, a little
vehicle
windy,
right now
just a little
looking
bit.
good. We're powered on, but
Got some
mostly
white
just
caps there.
monitoring systems. We will continue checking out Falcon 9 at about T-minus 1 hour when we begin a fuel bleed-in on the Merlin engines. Dragon team also monitoring the spacecraft. They've done a lot of their significant work earlier, including pressurizing
Recovery zone looks good, Swishno.
Draco thruster system, doing an inertial measurement unit alignment. And right now they're working mostly the mechanical activities, getting the crew in, and as we'll see coming up, the hatch closeout, leak checks.
That's a spaceship.
T-minus 1 hour. The
That's
advanced
pretty
team will
cool.
be leaving the pad.
How neat is that? That's pretty
So right
neat.
now, T-minus 2 hours, 18 minutes, 10 seconds. All systems continue to be go for an on-time launch this morning of the Axiom-1 mission.
Okay, right now the crew is conducting suit leak checks. These flight suits that they have on they're basically plugged into the capsule's HVAC systems individually. But the HVAC systems don't just keep you warm, they keep you cool. If there is basically
Everything continuing to...
If there's a sudden depressurization or something, these spacesuits are plugged into the oxygen supply inside of the spacecraft. So it's very important that they make sure that those don't leak, just in case. You don't want to play those games in space. You have to be absolutely sure. So it's better to make sure that it's working correctly. Now you can see that the suits have inflated. See it looks like a balloon. Yep. And then obviously the helmet's down. There's a seal here inside of the helmet, but you can see that the suit's inflated. It's pretty easy to spot. They are puffed up a little bit. The suits do have an umbilical that comes out the back right here, and that umbilical plugs into the seat. And it's basically a pneumatic line, like what you'd have like on an air hose for an impact driver or something. If you like cars, work in a shop or something, like it's basically like that. It's probably a Army Navy mil-spec thing, right? To make sure that it doesn't break or anything, But yeah, here's the thing on the suits here. Take a look.
One of the things that was important in the development of the suit
Jawline.
was to make it easy
Watch.
to use, something that the crew just has to literally plug in when they sit down, and then the suit kind of takes care of itself from there. So the suit is really kind of one part of the bigger Dragon system. It's really part of the vehicle. So we think of it as kind of a suit-seat system. So the seat that the crew is in and the suit are in a lot of ways working together. And so it made sense that we were designing Dragon in-house to also design the suit.
That's right, Miles.
Our spacesuits is completely designed in-house.
Ah.
It's built here in Hawthorne, California, in the same building
Yeah.
as the rocket and the capsule. The spacesuit is custom made for each crew member, and that is to optimize the fit for the crew member.
We definitely wanted to innovate and we wanted it to look inspiring, but first and foremost, we wanted it to be safe and reliable. The spacesuit's primary purpose is to protect the crew in the unlikely event that the cabin were to depressurize. But the suit does a number of additional things. It provides cooling and communication to the crew inside of the suit, provides them hearing protection, and the outer layer of the suit is flame resistant, so it provides flame protection as well. When the crew gets in the capsule, they get in their seats and they plug the suit into the umbilical that's attached to the seat. And the umbilical is providing everything that the suit needs. So it provides the avionics or electronics for communications, is providing the air to cool the suit, and then it also provides
check
gas
that out in a little bit,
to
Mars.
pressurize the suit. So it's really a single point that lets the suit do all the things that it needs to do. We designed the helmet in-house. The helmet serves a number of different functions. Obviously, it's protecting the crew's head and it's retaining gas like the rest of the suit.
That'd be cool, Pig Zig.
It also houses the microphones as well as the valves that are regulating pressure in the suit. We had to design the gloves so that they would work with the touchscreen so that the crew could use the touchscreen while they were in their suit. But the gloves also still had to do a number of other things like the rest of the suit. And then, of course, they have to be able to work under pressure. I think one of the things that's cool about the suit is it's not just a piece of hardware, it's not just a suit. It's a very personal thing to work on for everyone on the team who's been building these, and so it's a really amazing thing.
You know, you wouldn't think, right, that, you know, it's like, oh, this crazy spacesuit for this super 21st century spacecraft. It's made on sewing machines. It's just a bunch of people with sewing machines. I know it's a little bit more complicated than that, but it's just sewing machines. I think that's really neat. That's really cool. I see a bunch of people working hard on the sewing machines, moving that through. And sewing is a freaking art. Seriously, it's not easy. It's not an easy thing to do. Got to make sure that stitch is perfect, man. Especially with a suit that seals like this. It's really cool. That's very impressive to me.
Research portfolios to prepare the AX-1 crew for their mission.
Wow, I didn't know this. Eitan Stivi was part of the Israeli Air Force and was assigned to the 117th Squadron flying F-16s. His commander was Ilyan Ramon. The guy shot down 5 aircraft in 3 days. Wow. All right. Okay. Yeah, Atomic, it is pretty cool, isn't it? I had to thread a sewing machine in home ec. Yeah, Flight Sim, I did that in home ec too. I failed. I failed miserably. Oh, man. Try to keep it classy during the day here for me, fellas, if you could.
Any problem that they're given and work together.
Human launch where? This is the first commercial mission, Clutch. This is the Axiom-1 mission. First commercial mission to the ISS here.
As a first-time flyer in order to build a foundation for piloting Crew Dragon. Larry also served as the translator for his mission specialists, breaking down the technical data for his crewmates. And as mission specialists, Eitan and Mark have spent a majority of their training becoming proficient in operating equipment, interfaces, and a suite of other tools at their disposal to support the crew members throughout the ascent, rendezvous, and return portions of this mission.
Right, but you know their training doesn't stop there.
I wish,
right? They had a lot that they had to cover. So the AX-1 crew has also completed things like zero-G flights to become familiar with the microgravity environment, as well as centrifuge training to experience the exact launch and entry profiles that they'll feel during their mission. Additionally, they went through wilderness survival training to simulate and practice high-stress scenarios, as well as medic training to prepare for potential illnesses that they might experience while in orbit.
Look at that bush
and
plane.
As the first all-private crew to live and work aboard the International Space Station, they have been training at NASA facilities, specifically NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston, since August 2021. Each crew member has completed training in health, safety, space station systems, and emergency protocols to ensure that they can each work autonomously without interrupting the workflow of other astronauts while on board the ISS. And naturally, each crew member has their own portfolio of research they will conduct or participate in. Many of these studies have required the crew to train on the techniques and best practices of their respective principal investigators. So, you know, bottom line, to wrap that up, you know, this crew really is setting the standard in how they approach training, right? They've really exceeded the requirements of the mission, and they've certainly surpassed all of our expectations. And it really highlights that this mission represents more than just
727
the first fully
username.
private flight to ISS. You know, as we mentioned earlier, it's establishing many new protocols and means of collaboration between government and private institutions.
Axiom's the name of the
Really
company,
wanted to
Clutch.
get back to the ISS,
Axiom Space.
and they really wanted to get back to the mission and truly be a part of the team. And to do that, you have to be all in 100%. And so by immersing themselves in their training, they really set that bar high for private space flights and partnership efforts to come.
Yeah, for sure. So we can see there our crew members checking in on their tablets, monitoring the step of the procedure that we're currently working through. Right now, the closeout team there at the capsule are performing final interior inspections, basically making sure that everything in the cabin is stowed, making sure that, of course, the crew members are all buckled in safely, and basically making sure that everything is in the final flight configuration.
So we're sitting at T-minus 2 hour, 10 minute, 7 seconds. Crew has done the leak checks here. And now they're moving into... I'm not sure what Mike has on his tab right there. But the checklist, guys, if you want to know, is on the center screen. So the commander's view is like the HUD for the spacecraft. Yes, it is. It's pretty much a HUD. It looks like a video game, guys. I'm serious. And then pilot on the right has the same thing. These are kind of basically MFDs. And then in the center screen is the checklist. And then redundant to the touchscreens, you have mechanical buttons here for all the like core functions of the spacecraft. The T grip right there, that's the O frick button, or the O frick handle. Twist it and pull, and bye-bye. I mean, it doesn't do anything right now because the launch escape system is inerted. They'll go through. That's in step 6, I think, of the countdown checklist. They're in step 2 right now, which is suit pressurization. So they have completed leak checks. The crew has their helmets back off. The suits are deflated right now. The crew's just getting ready for the next step. I forget what the next step is. I'll be honest with you. Hey, Ozako. Hi. Tablet is not in a great place. The one on first plan. Yeah, right. New KSP tweet. Any space news? No, that's just watching people fly into space. KSP features video episode 5. We'll watch that later, guys. Maybe we'll play Kerbal today. Who knows?
You're the rocket, thankfully.
All right. Once again, this is Eric Johnson coverage of Axiom-1, standing at T-minus 2 minutes 8 seconds, or 2 hours 8 minutes 12 seconds. See? For the people here that have been with me since the start, that was a quick hour, wasn't it? Once again, you know, you get, if you got here at the beginning of the stream, we picked up the count at 3 hour 15. And it goes by real quick, man. It goes by real fast, dude. These next 2 hours are going to be like this. Trust me.
Right, Christian. So thank you for joining us. Well, increasing the amount of research performed in low Earth orbit is a goal of Axiom's efforts with private astronaut missions like AX-1 and eventually our future Axiom station. So high level, can you share some information about all the research happening on AX-1 and Axiom's role to enable it all?
Sure. We are really fortunate to have a crew that is so dedicated to doing research on this mission. We have over 25 experiments that we're going to be doing during the flight on the ISS, and we have a number of projects that we're doing before and after the flight as well. The crew has prepared tremendously hard for this. Axiom works with the crew to put together these complements and ultimately get everything put together and packaged up for flight. And then ultimately we help the crew get trained and get on their way. They are going to be incredibly busy on orbit. They have very full timelines along the way here, and we're looking forward to seeing each mission day unfold.
That's cool,
so are we
Thomas.
On the ground. We know they've got a very busy week in front of them. You know, and you mentioned how each crew member has their own portfolio. So let's talk a little bit about each crew member specifically. What can you tell us about Larry's efforts?
Well, Larry is really focused on some really key studies with the Mayo Clinic and the Cleveland Clinic that focus on aging and brain health and heart health. And in particular, he's doing a couple projects on the ground that are looking at him as a human subject. And then in flight, he is also going to be doing some experiments with stem cells and with cells, 2 different kinds of cells, cardiac cells and with with cells that are looking at aging. And in fact, he's working with a PI named James Kirkland at Mayo Clinic, who focuses on cellular aging, otherwise known as senescence. And so we've got a clip from Dr. Kirkland to tell you a little bit more.
My name is Jim Kirkland. I'm the Neuaber Foundation Professor of Aging Research at Mayo Clinic. I'm also President of the American Federation for Aging Research, and I'm Principal Investigator on something called the Translational Geroscience Network. I'm a geriatrician, endocrinologist, and internist, but also a PhD molecular biologist, and I'm interested in developing interventions that delay, prevent, or alleviate multiple diseases by going after fundamental aging processes.
Wow.
One of the things that we're working on is the cellular senescence program, and the other, my colleague Andrew Terzic, is looking at cardiovascular issues. And so there are a series of experiments that both of our groups are doing with Larry and the other astronauts' help. The project that my lab's working on and my group's working on is mainly related to a process called cellular senescence. So cellular senescence is a fundamental aging mechanism. They're what we call the so-called pillars of aging, and they're joined together. They're in what we call a unitary hypothesis. And these fundamental aging processes appear to be root cause contributors to multiple conditions. So the idea is to find out on a short space mission where there's the predominant effect will be zero gravity, some radiation, if senescence develops. Larry and his group are also taking up cells that we're providing with them that are what we call pre-senescent. These are human cells in culture. They're going to be tending the cells while they're up there and changing the medium on them. And we're asking whether those cells become senescent in space.
It's freaking
fascinating. Special culture containers had to be developed for this by Axiom, special incubators. And Larry, we've trained him and his colleagues in how to change the medium. They have to take up these needles. And when he comes back, we'll have parallel cells on the ground that we will compare to the cells that have been up in space. And the insights that we will get from the experiments here is planning to do, both allowing his own blood and other fluids to be analyzed, and also by looking after cells that are taken in space, could help a lot of people with a lot of conditions that go far beyond space travel, to everything from childhood cancer survivors through to Alzheimer's disease.
Oh, that's cool, man. That's really neat. Oh, science is dope.
Well, excellent. So essentially, Dr. Kirkland and
cool.
Terzic are really looking at how microgravity can reveal new mechanisms in cellular aging and cardiac health. And the hope is that what we learn from space is ultimately we can translate to solving age-related conditions.
It's pretty neat. That guy...
Really cool to see.
That guy that worked at the Mayo Clinic is an MD and a PhD. He's an endocrinologist, a molecular biologist, and then a vascular... I think a vascular doctor, I think he said is what it is. Yeah, all right, okay, sure. You know what, man? I have a bachelor's, all right? I have a bachelor's in computer animation, okay? All right? So we're basically the same. We're not. Nope.
6 different universities and their researchers in the Canadian
sciences.
In the Canadian area.
See that guy, that doctor? He sciences.
With 2
science is hard.
For some technology demonstrations.
That's fascinating.
And he's also working with some institutions in Canada to do some Earth observation work. One of the studies that he's particularly focusing on is about pain sensation in space, and he's working with Pablo Angelmo, who is a PI at McGill University and works with the Montreal Children's Hospital. We've got Dr. Angelmo on video here to talk a little bit more about his research and why it's so important.
I'm Dr. Pablo Angelmo. I'm Professor of Anesthesia at McGill University and Director of the Edos Family Interdisciplinary Center for Complex Pain at the Montreal Children's Hospital.
That's right, Duckman, right.
The knowledge we have about the relationship between microgravity and pain is minimal, almost non-existent. We know that half of the astronaut who goes into space will experience pain while they're in space or when they come back to Earth. To better understand why these people have pain, we assembled a research team of the Allen Edwards Center
nice, Pete.
For Research on Pain of McGill University, from Concordia University, and also
doing
from the MD Anderson
O-ring checks on the hatch.
Cancer Center in Houston. This project also involved transfer of technology from the University of Pennsylvania.
Spanish.
Our team includes experts in pain sensation, in the genetic mechanism of pain, in bone pain, in intervertebral disc degeneration, and in musculoskeletal spine imaging and rehabilitation. The novelty of our project is that we are trying to answer several questions from different perspectives and different angles in a single study, but in reality, we are conducting 6 studies in one. We are not looking just for the abnormalities in people who have pain, but we want to understand why some people get better after an acute insult, like microgravity. That happens every day in Earth. We plan to incorporate that information collected from astronauts into animal models, which may lead to application in humans, and eventually in different ways to treat them. Our hope is that information we collect will advance on research on help people here on Earth. I would say that Mark Patty and his colleagues are giving us their time before, during, and after the flight. This will create new models of analysis for helping people in pain here, every day.
Aquí.
I'm very grateful for their commitment and generosity.
Okay, crews are doing some inspections on the hatch here, and now they're gonna torque the hatch. They're gonna torque down the hatch, make sure that it's bolted in, and then after they do that, the O-ring that they inspected and the kind of companion flange for that O-ring on the hatch here, they checked to make sure there was no debris in the seal or anything. And now they're going to bolt down the hatch, and the O-ring that's actually on the hatch to the capsule, right, it's an inflatable O-ring. So they're going to get the compressor out, and they're going to pressurize the O-ring. They're going to inflate the O-ring to seal the hatch. But not before they torque it down here. After they torque that hatch down, they'll hook the pneumatics up to it. That was a sweet torque wrench, by the way. And the crews will go through their checklist here, and they will inflate the seal on the O-ring here. The guy will get a hose. There, see, there's your pneumatic hose, and he'll use a mighty vac and pump it right up. Note that there's like 3 guys with checklists here, making sure every step is done correctly. That's not just a bunch of guys there for fun. It's triple redundant. They have 3 dudes that are checking the checklist just to be absolutely 100% sure. And what they're going to do after they do every step, you'll note that one guy will take a picture. They will take a picture of what they're doing, and they'll upload that to SpaceX's servers. That makes sure that everything is documented. So if there's some type of not a failure mode or anything, but if there's something different that happened this time, they're going to have documentation for every single step along with a picture. So Pad Ninja number 17 is going to inflate the hatch here. And see, there's even guys taking pictures of the mighty vac to make sure that the mighty vac works. That's literally what that is. It's a mighty vac. You use them to test pneumatic systems on cars and stuff. I have one of those.
This is experiment, a joint project of the Technion and NASA aims to enable for the first time
it's a clean room,
creation of optical components in space. In neurology, we are testing how we can take advantage of the conditions of microgravity to improve drug delivery to the human brain, an experiment of device to protect space systems from cosmic radiation. This technology will enable the use of commercial electronics in space environment. Testing recycling in space, the effect of microgravity on the rate of decay of plastic by bacteria. In agriculture, growing specific seeds in space as superfood and also for water purification.
Not the O-rings themselves. They're looking for a loss of pressure over time. Thanks, Nervous. Pressurize a cavity between the O-rings. Okay, cool.
Israel, the innovation nation. AX-1 and Rakia mission are positioning Israel as a leading technological player in the global space community. I look forward to exciting scientific and technological results. Good luck.
Nervous, would they be using, they're using nitrogen, right? To pressurize this? Or are they checking for vac? They actually, you know what, Nervous? I've always thought about this. I've always just said they inflated an O-ring because somebody else told me to say that, believe it or not. And I've seen the dang O-ring. You can see it in the footage. Let's just say somebody else that I trust. Let me put it to you like that. So they still give astronauts pills just in case. No, Rooster. No, that they haven't done that in a little while. So okay, so they're inflating the cavity between the O-ring. Or actually, I'm wondering if they're bringing it down to vac to make sure that the O-ring's sealed correctly. Now I'm wondering if they're not inflating it, but using the Mighty Vac to pull, because those Mighty Vacs, that thing can pull, can make vacuum if you really needed to. Both, yeah.
in Houston to understand more about.
Is that Discord?
To keep a more diverse population healthy in space.
Is that Discord? That guy is playing Galaga.
That is autonomous and self-assembly of different panels.
How strict is their diet before getting into space? DJ, you have to be in pretty good shape to fly up into space. It's pretty taxing on the body if you're unprepared. It would be like if somebody flew around in a fighter jet, you know? It's really taxing on your heart, believe it or not. And that's why it's cool, because Larry Connor's up there and he's doing vascular research, which is neat. That's pretty neat. So, I mean, I don't know, like, I don't really know how that pertains to diet. You should probably eat right. You should probably make sure you're in good health before you go up into space, though. Because, yeah, space is really, really bad for you. It's taxing on the body. It really is. Don't look like they're on Twitter. Yeah.
In the capsule, the door's been shut, so the closeout team...
It's like how Formula 1 drivers really need to work on, like, neck support, because when you're pulling a lot of lateral G's in a race car, right? So your neck's going like this because you have to move this freaking your head around with this big helmet on it, right? So you really work on a lot of neck support. You need to be in good health, or else you won't be able to drive the car to its limits. You got to be in good health, or else your body won't like it going up into space if you're not healthy. You got to be at least a little bit healthy. It's vacuum. My bad. I was wrong. Okay, cool. Yeah. Well, I mean, that makes sense, Nervous, because yeah, you want to seal it. They're probably pulling all the air out to get a perfect seal, to pull those O-rings together. So they're not inflating it so much as they're pulling the air out. It's vacuum sealing it, which is smart. That's better for thermal, and that's better, for not losing that whole, oxygen thing. Yeah, you kind of need that. Am I right or what? Could you go to space? Like, are you in shape? DJ, not really. If I was going to go to space, I would probably go to the gym every day, just to be sure. I mean, like I said, it's taxing on your heart. I mean, there's the G-forces of flying into space, and that's not that bad. But being up in space is, it's really... A lot of weird stuff happens. You start losing bone mass because you're not really using your legs all that much. So you start losing bone mass. Well, not because of your legs. That's different. You start losing bone mass, and you get muscular atrophy. So what's muscular atrophy? That's basically when your muscles... get weaker because you're not using them. It's the same thing as if you're on the ground. If you don't lift every day, you're not going to be cut. You know what I'm saying? Right? So your muscles will degrade over time. That happens to an extreme in space, especially with your legs, because you're not using them. You're not using your legs. Think about how much those muscles work every day, just walking around. Right? Your eyes do weird things. The fluid in your eyes do weird. So if you have cataracts, you're not going to have a good time in space. It does all kinds of stuff. The fluid redistributes in your body because it's not subject to gravity. So think about it. Like your heart is working to pump blood up here, and your heart is pumping against the force of gravity when you're down here. But your heart doesn't need to do that up in space, right? So you end up getting like blood and fluid kind of pooling up here. it's not so much blood. The blood does recirculate right. Our hearts work fine in 0G, or not 0G, in microgravity. That's what you should call it. But yeah, it's really super interesting what it does to the body. And like back in the Mercury days and in Vostok over in the Soviet Union, they weren't sure what the heck your body would do when you went up into space. Like people were like, "Are your eyes gonna fall out?" Well, I mean, back then you didn't know until you went. So when Yuri flew in April of '61, they figured out that your eyes aren't gonna pop out, but like the fluids in your body redistribute because you're in microgravity. It's really weird stuff. Muscles don't grow on trees? No, they don't grow on trees down here, Frild. Did you pass biology? What's the matter with you? Your lymphatic system. That's what it is, Vaughn. Yeah, the fluids in your lymphatic system just redistribute, and it looks like you got a puffy face up in space.
The closeout team.
Okay. Now, the closeout team is just sitting there, basically. They're sitting there to make sure they're waiting to check the seals on the hatch. They brought the seal on the hatch down to vacuum, and now they're just waiting. They're going to check the leak over time. I sent you a link on Discord for AX-1 coverage. I don't know what that means. Do you want me to cover it harder? Like, I don't...
He's a veteran of 3 space shuttle flights, 1 Soyuz flight, and numerous spacewalks.
For side hatch leak check.
Oh, okay. All right.
Right, MLA, they were seeing some leak rate trending in the wrong direction, so we're going to reopen the side hatch temporarily, try and clean off that seal, and then re-close the side hatch to re-perform the side hatch leak check. How copy?
Okay. They saw numbers they didn't like.
All right,
they
so
didn't get a good seal on the O-ring.
SpaceX core Arthur Burial to the crew.
This has happened before.
That we're going to reopen the side hatch. It sounds like that, as I mentioned before, we inflate the seal around the side hatch and hold it under pressure.
Kate says they inflate it.
We saw just a little bit of pressure loss there in that leak check, so we're going to reopen it and wipe down everything along that seal to see if we can get that to close up properly.
Right, and as Kate mentioned, we heard that conversation between Core and MLA. So, taking a closer look at MLA here while we wait for those leak checks, this will be his 3rd trip to the International Space Station. His last one was Expedition 14, where he also
they're going to open it, they're going to clean the hatch.
So, let's go ahead and take a closer look at the commander of AX-1, Michael Lopez Alegria.
Michael, I want to know what the first time the feeling was when you got outside of the space shuttle. What was that feeling like?
Most astronauts that have been to space will talk about the overview effect. Basically, it's a change in perspective. These experiences are really unique.
Mikey.
So I'm trying not to set expectations for the crew because I really want them to have their own interpretation of what it's like.
American spaceflight record that by former NASA astronaut Michael Lopez Alegria. 215 days in space, 213 of which were on the International Space Station.
In 2004, I was assigned to fly a long-duration mission to the ISS. My 2 crewmates on the Soyuz would be a cosmonaut and then a spaceflight participant. And I wasn't too keen with that idea. And the few weeks that I spent training with her and the 10 or so days I spent on orbit with her completely changed my view. It has been a complete 180-degree change of direction. And I went from refusing the Kool-Aid to pouring the Kool-Aid.
The thing about LA that's special is his patience,
67 hours
his
of EVA,
skill,
dude.
competence, his trustworthiness. He's well suited to be a commander of any space mission.
Oh, yeah.
AX-1 is the first private mission to the International Space Station. We are setting the standard for all future human spaceflight to the ISS, and we take that obligation very, very seriously. Our guys have been training for months, and they're trying to get a lot done, especially when it comes to scientific experiments and outreach. But I want them to really enjoy the experience, and I want them to come home with a big smile on their face. SpaceX training, it's like being a kid in a candy store. A new vehicle, love the human interface with it. It's a really exciting and inspiring place.
and he was feeling nostalgia already just by going through the training process and being
Garrett.
back in the business of preparing for a space
Met
flight.
that guy
It's
before.
something I know he's enjoying thoroughly.
I've been involved with Axiom, which started out literally as a handful of people in 2016 to where it is today. I really tip my cap to all of the people here at Axiom.
Hey, boss, don't screw up.
I'm Michael Lopez Alegria, and I'm the commander of AX-1.
Garrett's the man, dude. That guy's so cool. I've
Larry
interviewed
Connor
him before.
Is Axiom-1's
cool
pilot.
Dude. He helped design the Dragon
Larry's
capsule.
experience in piloting over 16 types of aircraft and multiple deep ocean dives sets him well for this role aboard AX-1. While on board, Larry will conduct numerous experiments in conjunction with the Mayo Clinic and the Cleveland Clinic. Here's a closer look at Larry Connor.
Larry.
Well, Larry, I always start with the big, broad question. Why?
Well, it's a big opportunity and a big challenge.
And you're no stranger to extreme activities, right?
Is that a Formula One car?
I don't classify them as extreme activities.
That was a
I
Jordan.
understand other people would.
Larry is an entrepreneur and nonprofit activist investor. Larry Connor will be the pilot for that mission.
The pilot is a person who is there to be equally technically proficient as the commander and
Who
back
is
them
this
up.
guy?
My pilot, Larry Connor, American businessman, he comes across as a no-nonsense guy. The words I would use to describe him are focused, organized, driven, and he's a real team player.
I was really clear to Axiom right from the beginning. I didn't want to be a space tourist. I didn't want to go up there and sit. This was an opportunity not only to do exploring, but hopefully make a difference.
Well,
We like Larry.
and the other
Larry's
astronauts
cool.
are doing a couple of sets of studies. The one with respect to heart function, the other with respect to these fundamental aging processes. And the insights that we will get could help a lot of people with a lot of conditions, from childhood cancer survivors through to Alzheimer's disease. One of the things that Larry has been doing is he's been incredibly generous with helping support clinical trials, determining once and for all whether some of these interventions work.
Our goal and our hope is to try to help revolutionize how we think about and how we serve and how we help people.
He wants to do a good job. He's putting in the efforts to support his crewmates and just, make an example of what private spaceflight could be.
I just wish
apples to oranges,
the world
Clutch.
were filled with people like him. He's generous and thoughtful, and I just can't think of enough positive things to say about him.
You have to recognize all of the people up and down the line. They've simply been exceptional. We've got a really talented, committed, resilient group of individuals. Amazing things really are possible. I am Larry Connor, and I'm the pilot on AX-1.
Yeah, we like Larry. Larry's cool.
Now coming to Eitan Stiba. Serving as mission specialist, Eitan has a significant mission ahead of him in terms of objectives, as we talked with Christian earlier about. Working with the Ramon Foundation and the Israel Space Agency at the Ministry of Science and Technology, Eitan will be focusing on everything from genetic diagnostics to arts and science outreach.
Oh,
Here's a
Larry's
closer
an
look
SCCA
at Eitan's
guy.
story.
Okay.
Tell me, what was your first spark to want to fly?
That's an interesting question.
Cool.
As a kid, I would close my eyes and dream that I was flying like Superman that I saw on TV. Actually, I went to sleep every night in this position.
43
F-16
years
is a beautiful
in the
aircraft.
IAF.
It gives the pilot a feeling of freedom in the 3-dimension. You just look at somewhere and pull the stick, and
Yeah,
the
those are
aircraft
nice.
performs what you wish.
That's the mock
He
loop.
has this inner drive. You see it shine or spark when he's exposed to new cultures. My dad has been, in the last decade, his heart has been into impact investments to create infrastructure and to help communities.
The Rakia mission was built in the same manner to draw on the curiosity associated with human space travel. to conduct a wide range of experiments, educational studies, and even artistic activities. ראינו שחקר החלל מגרה את כל החושים, מעורר סקרנות, אפילו מאתגר את הדמיון הפרוע ביותר.
Rakia patch. It has Rakia written on it in English, Hebrew, and Arabic, and one dot up above for the memory of Ilan Ramon.
Respect.
Even though Israel is a technological country, space is something that ignites a curiosity. It's unreachable, it's far away. One of my objectives in the mission is to change the sentiment in Israel about human spaceflight, to inspire children to look up to the sky and imagine things that are not possible and try to reach them.
Engines full power. Lift off.
Thrust of Falcon 9 is like 2 squadrons of F-16s in full afterburner. That power is incredible. I sat inside the simulator of the Dragon, looked up and imagined how that would feel.
I think it's gonna be the most beautiful thing in the world, seeing this literally take off and seeing all the ideas and all the effort that has been done come to life. It's gonna be beautiful.
There is an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I'm happy that so many Israeli entities and people can join this effort. My name is Eitan Stibe. I'm a mission specialist on AX-1.
Mark Pathy is one of AX-1's mission specialists. A longtime philanthropist, Mark will be working with the Canadian Space Agency as well as Montreal Children's Hospital to conduct a number of experiments on vital organ monitoring, ocular health, and pain management. Let's hear a little more from Mark.
In your mind, as you're driving at the pad site, would you have a drive-up song?
To get to that moment where I'm sitting in the seat, buckled in, and that countdown's beginning.
3, 2, 1.
Ooh! I like that camera.
I imagine what it's going to feel like physically in terms of lifting off from the surface of the Earth. It's hard for it to always seem completely real. Then a whole other chapter opens and a whole other adventure begins.
I'm very excited to start my training. Been waiting for a long time. The anticipation's been killing me. Now here we are today. I'm ready.
Yeah! Oh, that looks like fun. That looks like fun.
It's important to me to really highlight Canadian universities and Canadian research institutions and to give opportunities to those researchers and those organizations that they might not otherwise have.
Mark was entirely committed to developing this mission as a scientific mission, and the theme of the mission was caring for the planet, caring for its people. We're going to be testing new technologies that can help us explore space, staying longer and going farther, but more importantly, can help change our lives here on Earth.
There'll be a lot of physical and psychological studies that I'll be participating in up there. A lot of the research that I'm undertaking involves using me as a lab rat, because that's the best way I can contribute. A lot of what one experiences in space in terms of inflammation, in terms of pain, psychological feelings of isolation, those are things that affect sick kids. To me, I would like to think that I'll leave this world a better place than I found it.
The crew is setting a high standard for private astronauts in the future because they're dedicated to science, they're dedicated to the mission, they're able to learn all these objectives, they are building in educational outreach. It's really exciting watching this come together.
I'm very excited to work with you to complete your science experiments and your educational outreach when you get on board ISS.
We know you guys are prepared and we'll be supporting you here from Mission Control in Houston.
Bingo. There's a lot of people, some that I know and many that I don't, that deserve my appreciation and thanks and gratitude for getting me here. I'm Mark Pathy, and I'm a mission specialist on AX-1.
Cool.
We're currently T-minus 1 hour, 36 minutes, 27 seconds. As the Axiom-1 crew awaits its 11:17:12 a.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time liftoff from Launch Pad 39A at Kennedy Space Center.
Yeah, I like him, Tech.
Now, currently, as you see a little bit on the left there, the crew is inside the Dragon capsule. We closed the side hatch a little bit earlier. We began the 5-minute leak check. We stopped that. They saw a little bit of a leak, and they reopened the hatch starting about 12 minutes ago. You can see they're getting ready to close the hatch again. They cleaned the seal off. Nothing significant noted, but give it a good wipe. We're closing up, and then we'll try to repeat the leak check here very shortly. Once we get through that, we're also waiting to hear the crew perform communications checks with the Falcon ground team. That'll be a checkout with some of the responsible engineers who you'll also hear during the ascent calling out status, propulsion engineer, avionics engineer, guidance, nav, and control, as well as chief engineer. Earlier, we did have the communications checks with the Dragon team. We heard that going through a variety of routes. That would be the umbilical, the radio frequency transmitters, and of course the NASA TDRS satellite up in geosynchronous orbit.
Who farted?
So currently the weather, when we get a view of the pad, the weather continues to be go for launch, as well as any contingencies. For example, if a launch escape was required during ascent, weather conditions in the Atlantic Ocean off of the eastern seaboard of the U.S. as we head northeast towards the space station, those conditions are go. The upper altitude winds for Falcon 9 as we steer through the period of maximum dynamic pressure, those also look good right now.
Good.
And of course, contingency splashdown locations that we would use in case the crew had to come back down out of orbit, they're also looking good. Now, coming up in about 35 minutes, that's when things start to get active on Falcon 9. We'll begin the fuel bleed in on the Merlin engines. Let a little bit of propellant onto the vehicle, bleed it through the engines. That's getting them ready for the ignition sequence inside of T-minus 2 seconds. And of course, as we said, the Dragon team, the advanced team that's on the pad, they have to repeat the side hatch leak check. Good news is we still got time in the schedule.
Kind of so.
And we have seen this before if you've been with us on one of the crew missions. We also had a leak where we had to reopen the hatch, clean the seal, close it up, and then it passed. But that advanced team, once we get through that and we finish putting on the last covers for flight, deflate some of the seals, and get ready to get out of the pad, they'll leave the pad area and the crew access arm at T-minus 1 hours. Also, a little bit earlier, we did a launch escape system checkout on Dragon. That came at about T-minus 1 hour and 52 minutes.
Okay.
That's mostly just checking all the telemetry of the systems that are required in the launch escape safety system. Everything checked out well, and that's a standard part of the launch countdown. It's critical to make sure that everything is in working order.
We are closing the side hatch again, and we'll step into the next round of side hatch leak checks.
Okay.
Copy on SpaceX.
And we've heard the call out. You can see the advanced team. They're closing the hatch. Looks like they're torquing up to the required load. We then begin a pressurization sequence for a few minutes, and then we hold it for 5 minutes. And then, fingers crossed, we'll get a successful leak check. We'll get into the communications checkouts and proceed on to the T-minus 1 hour and countdown.
How much torque does that torque wrench cost? Or how much does the torque wrench
now,
cost?
Kate,
yes.
John, everything continues to look good out of pad 39A.
We have to recommence the health checks for the launch escape system with the second hatch closure. Expect a momentary flight computer state change.
Okay, so, fellas, I'll answer the other questions in a second, but I got a little bit of a clarification on what they're doing. So, there is 2 seals on that hatch. One of the seals is on the capsule, and one of them is on the hatch. They're 2 O-rings, right? And then there's a cavity in between these O-rings. So when they come together, right, there's a seal on the hatch and there's a seal on the capsule, right? But there's also a groove on the capsule and a groove on the hatch. The O-ring from the capsule seals to the groove on the hatch, and the O-ring on the hatch seals inside of the groove on the capsule. So kind of think like 2 puzzle pieces kind of fitting together. In between those 2 seals, what they're going to do is they're going to evac all the gas. They're going to use that mighty vac to pull all the air out. And then they'll check to make sure that each O-ring, hatch side O-ring, capsule side O-ring, have seated correctly. If they haven't seated correctly, well, they didn't the first time, you'll see a leak drop. You'll see that area that's in between the two O-rings return to it'll go from vacuum and it'll return to 1 bar, right? That means there's a leak. So a leak doesn't necessarily mean that that's any big deal, right? Just one of the O-rings might not have sealed correctly. There could be just a speck of dust in there. Like, we're talking really, really, really specific tolerances here. You don't want your spacecraft to leak gas, especially when it's up there. Probably a bad thing. So right now, the crew is going through the checklist to bring that seal between the two O-rings back down to vacuum. And they have the mighty vac out, so now they're just going to sit and wait.
That commemorates the AX-1 mission, and he created the spacewalker that you see on your screen there. So this digital asset can be enjoyed as an augmented reality spacewalker that anyone can check out and play with. And here's how it works. I got to play with this a little bit yesterday. It's pretty cool. But we'll have a QR code for everyone at home to scan with your phone, and the spacewalker will become an AR model on your phone that you can play with. You can adjust the scale and position it as you want, rather, and then snap a photo with it wherever that spacewalker is. It's actually pretty fun. I got to kind of play around with them. We walked around here a little bit and popped a spacewalker over there and took a photo of it. It's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so at home, we'd love to see what you can do with it. So be sure to tag any posts with the hashtag AX1. That is AX and the number 1.
I can right click and hit save as on it. That's pretty fun.
This might be what gets me in.
Yeah. So as you said, that's not it, right? We're taking this one step further with the goal of encouraging people all over the world to have some fun with this mission. We are announcing that the AX-1 crew is going to mint the spacewalker as an NFT from space. So for all of those NFT collectors out there, the Axiom NFT marketplace is launching right now. And over the course of this mission, it will feature digital artwork, just like Michael Kagan's spacewalker there, associated with this historic mission.
You guys have any other questions? So, Moose, you asked about Starship's environmental survey. The programmatic environmental assessment that the FAA is working on got postponed out to April 28th, so it's going to take a little bit of time. They're probably just making sure that they understand the full impact of what something that big launching constantly is going to do to the surrounding environment. So, it's out to April 28th. SpaceX, it's not that big of a deal because SpaceX isn't really ready with the pad either. So, Moose, it's going to take some time. The last thing we heard from Elon regarding this was that they're, hopefully it goes through. He's confident that they'll pass the environmental assessment, the programmatic environmental assessment. And if they do, they're targeting around May. So I would guess June for Starship. Something like that. If I had to guess, I mean, SpaceX might be able to get it done in May. It really depends. I'm not interested in what they were talking about, fellas. I'll be honest with you. I mean, how accurate does that particular torque wrench need to be? Bro Handy, with spaceflight, we're talking tolerances in microns here. Like, yeah, I don't know if it needs to be that accurate, but with spaceflight, like, once again, so the relationship between two components on a spacecraft is really, think about what they're going through, okay? You're down here, 1 bar ambient pressure, right? 1 bar ambient pressure, 21C, right? With, it's Florida, so probably like 70% humidity. Now, why do I bring that up? Well, think about those two parts interacting down here, and then think about the circumstances that they'll be introduced to when this capsule gets up into space. You're talking 0 bar. 0, not 0 Celsius, 0 Kelvin, right? So like minus 500 C or something like that. I forget what it is in centigrade. And we're talking about extremely cold temperatures, and then if it's in the sun, it's actually extremely hot. So the tolerances here need to be very, 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 very tight. So how accurate is that torque wrench? How accurate does it need to be? Oh, yes. Yes. You're dealing with thermals, you're dealing with pressures, you're dealing with different differential humidity. There's a bunch of different things. On top of that whole, rocket launch thing, that's kind of a little bit of a violent event, All right, hang on.
Voice that you just heard was Arthur Berrialt, our SpaceX core,
Thanks, Zelda.
who basically is the primary communicator between the teams here on the ground
I think it's 500
and the crew.
Fahrenheit, but I could be
really
wrong.
important role because for us we can see what's going on. We've got the views here, but think about it for the crew. They can't really see what's on the other side of that side hatch. So important updates there to keep them informed. That being said,
Dragon, GNC will begin the Falcon 9 operator comm check with you at this point. Go ahead, GNC.
Guidance, navigation, and control. It's made out of aluminum,
Dragon,
Neo.
GNC on countdown 1, comm check.
Okay.
You're loud and clear, Cyrus. How many? GNC loud and clear. Stand by for comm check by propulsion engineer.
Ground crews are checking.
Dragon, prop on countdown
right
1,
now.
comm check.
Prop, Endeavor, you're loud and clear, Charles.
Prop, loud and clear.
459.67.
Stand by for
Thank
comm
you,
check
Zelda.
with the avionics engineer.
Dragon, avionics on countdown 1, comm check.
Avionics, Endeavor, good morning.
That's right, Moose. Those are all the NASA astronauts that have flown on a
Avionics loud
Dragon.
and clear. Stand by for comm check by the ground
Is that a
segment
Supra?
engineer.
Dragon, ground segment on countdown 1, comm check.
Loud and clear, Andrew, good morning.
Good morning, ground segment has you loud and clear. Stand by for comm check by launch control.
Dragon, launch control on countdown 1, comm check.
I don't know, public.
Launch control, Endeavor, you're loud and clear.
Launch control loud and clear. Stand by for comm check by the chief engineer.
Dragon, comm check from chief engineer.
Good morning, Chief Engineer. This is Endeavor, you're loud and clear.
This completes the Falcon 9 responsible engineering comm checks. Godspeed.
Thank you.
All right, there you just heard the completion of the comm checks. Basically, the ground teams, the
Their
various
iPads.
leads for the ground systems here,
Nice.
going around and making sure that the communication pathway to the crew is clear, loud and clear, as you heard them say. Voices that we heard there included SpaceX core Arthur Berrialt, the chief engineer for this mission, Bill Gerstenmayer, and
Billy.
just around the horn for those comm checks with the crew. On
Probably
the
some
left-hand
small
side of your
talk.
screen, just a quick check-in. The team there is performing the recheck, the recheck for that side hatch closure. So we did attempt to close the side hatch and perform a leak check, and we saw just a very slight loss of pressure during that leak check. So we opened it back up, wiped it down. Teams didn't know anything major when they inspected it, so now we've reclosed it, and we are reperforming that leak check, which includes basically getting it up to pressurization or pressure 3 minutes, and then holding it at that pressure for 5 minutes. So right now we're in that 5-minute wait period. So, as you can tell for the crew, it's a lot of waiting. It's we do this and now we wait, and now we do this and then we wait.
Hurry up and wait, as they say. Yeah, and Kate, as you mentioned, and as we heard, on the concurrently while we're doing that that repress and recheck, we are also trying to concurrently perform those comm checks, right, and gain some time back as well. So crew, as they're in their vehicle waiting, they're still on track for their mission, right? They're still zeroed in on exactly what they've got to do, exactly how they can provide assistance in providing and following their procedures and working with the ground teams to stay on track for launch.
Sure. And it's worth noting, we do build margin into the timeline for this exact reason. If you followed our human spaceflight missions before, sometimes you hear the Corps indicate that we have X amount of minutes of margin. So yeah, for this exact reason, we do build in that margin. And as I said earlier, the countdown itself is what aligns all the various teams working to support the launch on the same timeline. So it's what makes sure that everybody syncs up. And so allowing us to perform those comm checks while doing the repress and recheck, just making sure that all those teams are continuing to remain aligned.
Yeah. I think during this, waiting period too, crews sitting there thinking about not only what do I have to do today, right now, like I'm waking up and I'm getting my suit checked out, there's steps all along the way, and I can only imagine how they're thinking about what their mission is ahead of them, right? All of the work that we've heard that they're trying to accomplish on orbit, their objectives, they're sitting there thinking, how can I be the most effective I can be over the next 8 days, right? And so I'm just thinking about the things that they're bringing up there with them, right? Little mementos that they're bringing up there with them. We heard some interesting things, during their pre-briefing last week. Certain tokens and mementos of home that they're bringing up and what that means to them. That all plays a part of this mission. What kind of keeps them going through these waiting periods? Thinking about what am I going to do up there? What does this mean to me? What does it mean to the people back home? And they're just ready to get up there and start working towards those objectives.
So we're continuing to monitor the recheck of that side hatch closure. The team is performing that leak check now.
Sorry guys, I'm just listening. I'm listening to what's going on.
Should be wrapping that up pretty soon. Once we get the leak check confirmed.
Dragon SpaceX, good side hatch leak check.
Bingo.
Good news, Arthur. Thanks.
All right.
All right. Great news there.
Fantastic.
You might have heard some clapping here.
Yeah.
I should mention, John and I here are located at SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. I actually hear some beeping now. We are a live operations environment here in the rocket factory. So we're 1 hour and 18, just over 1 hour and 18 minutes until launch, and we're starting to see people gather and really, the excitement is starting to build, and just hearing the confirmation that that leak check was good, that side hatch is going to stay closed. The crew is, I think at that moment, as I mentioned before, the seat rotation, that's an exciting moment because it's like you're locked into the roller coaster, and here we go. And now hearing that side hatch is good, it's closed, and it's going to remain closed until they splash back down. So when the crew ingresses and egresses from the space station, they will use the forward hatch. So that side hatch now will remain closed until they return to Earth after splashdown.
Right, that's a huge step forward in today's launch. So, in addition to the scope of the science and research and outreach being performed on this mission, AX-1 is also taking some time to better understand the role that food plays on orbit. A partner on this mission and a good friend of Axiom Space is Chef Jose Andres and the team at Think Food Group. Known for his visionary culinary creations and humanitarian efforts, Chef Jose's World Central Kitchen is doing important work helping to feed those who are displaced.
Chef Jose also prepared the meals and snacks accompanying our crew to the ISS. In space, astronauts have limited kitchen equipment and ingredients on hand, so having already prepared meals that are both appetizing and comforting is a great way to feel connected to home.
Right, so joining us now is Chef Charisse Gray, who you saw in that video, Director for Research and Development at Think Food Group. Chef, welcome to the show.
Am I going to get hungry after this?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm going to get hungry, aren't I?
Chef, clearly Think Food Group is doing instrumental work in bringing people together with food, and has for a long time. What has been your team's mantra or ethos when it comes to creating these new dishes?
Well, at Think Food Group, our mission is to change the world through the power of food. And that's why we're so incredibly proud to partner with Axiom Space to have created the meals for the AX-1 multinational crew headed to the International Space Station. As Chef Jose Andres often talks about building longer tables, this is such an extraordinary opportunity to do just that, bringing together the hardworking AX-1 crew through food, reaching all the way to space.
So, as a partner on AX-1, the culinary teams at Think Food Group have developed a meal to be shared amongst the crew in space on the space station. What did you put together?
So, partner on the food mission was born on a friendship between Chef Jose and fellow Spaniard and veteran astronaut Michael Lopez Alegria, the commander of the upcoming mission. And as a result, we really wanted to lean on the flavors and traditional dishes of their native Spain. So we've made secreto de cerdo with pisto, which is a prized cut of Iberico pork with tomatoes, onions, eggplant, and peppers. And the second meal is chicken and mushroom paella. Paella is, Spain's quintessential rice dish, and the AX-1 crew will be able to enjoy also along with that. Some Spanish jamon, salchichon, and
now I'm hungry.
Super cool. Now, can you tell us a little bit more about the significance of those choices?
We wanted to be sure that we
those aren't MREs,
that
man.
were not only nutrient rich but satisfying and really delicious. Unlike traditional ready-to-eat meals that are designed for quick consumption, as chefs, we understand the importance of really bold and memorable flavors and created food that you'd really want to eat anywhere in the world, or in this case, out of this world.
Exactly right. So what were some of the challenges that you faced in trying to prepare those meals for out of this world?
To make meals that are going to be traveling, for over 250 miles away, and putting in the forefront really crew member safety, they had to be very carefully prepared. And so the AX-1 crew meals were thermostabilized through the retort process.
Oh, there you go.
Now, your teams also put together a set of snacks that the crew is taking with them to enjoy at various points on their journey to the ISS. We were fortunate enough to receive a few of those extra packets, and we'd love to share a snack together with you. What do we have here?
So you're holding one of the pouches of the actual meals. Let me see what you've got there. It looks like you might have got the pisto or the rice.
I think I have the Valencia rice with chicken.
Yes.
And I just spilled it everywhere.
Arroz con pollo.
There's the pisto there.
Wow, just immediately the aroma just is strong. It's in a very good way.
Yeah.
It's my mouth is already watering.
Well, and that's
John, what do you have?
Yeah, so I've got the pork stew, and I've got to say the same. The aroma I think is really what I would appreciate if I was on orbit and opening this up for the first time. Right? We've heard so much, especially on the crew system side at Axiom.
So that looks like Spanish rice. So it's Spanish rice, it's rice with tomatoes and chicken. It's good, yeah. Paella is good. It's delicious. So so when you're preparing space dishes, another thing to note, you don't the type of food that astronauts eat, or the type of food that gets consumed on space, has to be stuff that doesn't make a lot of crumbs. So you're not going to have soup in space. Soup doesn't make crumbs, but nothing like that. Cereals, you got to be careful with that. You don't want crumbs floating around, because the crumbs don't just go onto the floor, they float around. And you can jam up the HVAC systems on a space station or on a capsule if you have something that makes a lot of crumbs. So if you have like Doritos or something, that's not going to work very well. And all that stuff is going to get on your hands, and wiping that off in 0G just seems like not a fun time. So in the case of a spacecraft, jamming up the HVAC system means you can't breathe. So you don't want to do that. Yeah, you don't want to do that. With that being said, there are filters on the spacecraft, but you don't want to jam the filter up, because that's just another thing to do. So they try to make the dishes that they have there have the tomato paste in them to make sure that the rice doesn't go all over the place, so it doesn't make a lot of crumbs. You got to take that into account when you're having stuff in space, right? So because you don't want the crumbs to go everywhere, it's bad for it.
I was going to say, you know, at Axiom, we are hard at work building the next destination in low Earth orbit, and Axiom Station is being designed as a true continuation and evolution of the International Space Station. So
Cheeto
much
hands
gained
can
over
be
the last
lethal.
20 plus years in orbit. You know, Axiom's goal is to build upon the successes and lessons learned over that time, while bridging the gap between the ISS and commercial spaceflight, ultimately allowing greater access.
Does cold air still drop in space? What do you think? No, it just kind of sits there. So do gases. They just kind of sit there. Just like everything else. I don't know, Swishio, maybe.
The International Space Station is really...
So, like, for instance, if the astronauts want to make pizza, right? They don't use dough. They use a tortilla to make pizza instead because it's less crumbs. And they actually make like a pizza burrito almost. And they have a pizza oven up there too, which is cool. And an espresso machine too. Yeah. An Italian astronaut, Samantha Cristoforetti, brought up the espresso machine. Makes sense.
Living and working in space, commonplace. The government has
Panther, not a crouton's not a good idea. So a fart is lethal.
Crew members to low Earth orbit to conduct.
No, a fart isn't lethal. They circulate the air. There's a draft inside of the ISS to move the air around so that doesn't happen.
And what can be done in space. 15 years from now, 20 years from now, we're going to be surrounded by objects that we can't live without that we're manufacturing in space.
Today we are in the process of building our first two elements. We have subsystems in development. We have a full lab of life support hardware that we're putting through its paces. We are building a propulsion system. It's a lot of those details in developing a space station.
You know, the first two modules are being built by our partner Thalassomania, and we're heading to what is called CDR, which is a critical design review. That really means that 90% of the design is done, and then you're ready to go to manufacture. So HAB-1 is that first module. It has 4 crew quarters, it has payload accommodations, and it has all of the systems required to keep crew healthy and alive. So the plan is we'll fly 4 separate modules to the ISS. When we arrive with the 4th module, it'll have what we need to be independent of the ISS.
So a lot of thought went into how do we allow it to grow. When we look at the future, we have thoughts on how we could double the number of crew every 5 years.
There's a lot of excitement here about the AX-1 mission. Everyone understands that it's a very historic mission. We are just so excited to be part of that and having our people enable this historic moment.
The AX-1 mission provides us the opportunity to refine our flight techniques and operations concepts in order to meet the higher complexity of operating a space station in orbit. That moment where we're captured and birthed to the International Space Station will be a moment that defines how we move forward.
What, Nuggets?
As a species in low Earth orbit. This will be
there's no
really
Axiom
the
modules up there right now.
A fully commercial element has been part of it.
But that's what they want to do. They want to
Axiom
attach
Station is going to
modules to the
allow
ISS.
humanity to be a multi-planet species. We pull that off, we change the world.
And speaking of growing and expanding opportunities in low Earth orbit, this Axiom mission adds to a story that began in 2003. In Israel, Eitan Stiba is not just becoming the second Israeli astronaut in the country's history, but he is following on the legacy of Ilan Ramon. For Israel, this is a mission of peace and hope, and they have called this mission
2024,
Rakia, which is a word that means the heavens or firmament in English. So to tell us a little bit more about the Rakia mission, we send you now to our good friends in Tel Aviv, Israel, who are actively monitoring today's launch efforts.
Yes,
thank you, John and Kate, and thank you for joining us here at the Rakia headquarters in Tel Aviv. I'm Omri Doron, and together with me is the Israeli team of Rakia and its partners who have worked day and night to make this mission possible. Now, all joined together for this exciting launch of AX-1 to the International Space Station. Hundreds of thousands of Israelis are watching us from their homes. In Israel, we're at a very exciting moment. For the first time in 19 years, and for only the second time in our nation's history, one of our own will be in space again, Israeli astronaut Eitan Stiba. Eitan is dedicating his journey to the Rakia mission. And what that means is that his time in space will be devoted to fulfilling the innovative ideas and creative dreams that were chosen by the people of Israel for Rakia. every part of this Rakia mission has been developed in Israel with the goal to be impactful and innovative. For an Israeli child, this will be the first time to hear Hebrew lessons and demonstrations on the ISS. For Israeli scientists, artists, and educators, this will be a rare opportunity to perform their works in the unique microgravity environment with a home-trained astronaut. This will contribute greatly to international and Israeli research industries. Now, during the next 10 days, thousands will visit this venue and get to know the story of Rakia and AX-1. Here, our Rakia Mission Control Center will provide a unique opportunity for visitors to see behind the scenes of human spaceflight throughout Eitan Stiba's Rakia mission. It is our hope that those who follow Eitan on his journey understand that the Rakia mission promotes professional collaborations and manifests values of peace, innovation, social responsibility, and sustainability. It strives to connect the people of Israel and the world to these values and inspire dreams of possibility, because no dream is beyond reach. Now, as we close from Tel Aviv, I'd like to present a short movie that will further highlight the significant efforts of the Rakia mission.
Isn't that the Destiny logo?
Just in case you find yourself leading an inspiring mission to space, here's a packing list that might help. You start with the basics.
A car window.
Ever-expanding dreams. Respect for borders mixed with utter disregard for them. Dozens of wishes. A poem. Your favorite soundtrack. Your biggest hopes. A hunger for miracles. Endless amounts of innovations, like brainwave measuring device, groundbreaking blood test through capillaries, and laughing in the face of lenses manufacturing capabilities. A new outlook on storms. An entire platform that pushes science forward, because there is no I in space. Dreams to be realized. Tips from friends who showed you the way. Two ounces of inspiration. Your inner child. Because the one thing that's more important than to travel light is to make sure travel enlightens an entire generation. Thousands of schools.
It's not a cringe face, but my bad.
Your nation's brightest, young, inquisitive minds. A sense of humor. A prayer, just in case. A few words of wisdom. 306,757, to be exact. And another 4, to be exact. Amazing partners, local and foreign. And a big thank you to those who made it possible. Or just a big.
No, it's... Eitan Stiba has Ileon Ramon's journal. He's taking that into space. Yeah. It's not a cringe face, but my bad. It's rectifying some past mistakes.
Just over 63 minutes away from launch. Everything continues to go well out at Pad 39A for the Axiom-1 mission flight to the International Space Station. Right now, Falcon 9 team is in the middle of the fuel bleed through the Merlin engines. That's going well.
Discovery,
we've also done checkouts on the first and second stages. We're doing some final data checks. That's also looking good. Up on the Dragon capsule, you can see the crew access arm. The seal from the White Room has actually been deflated. You can see it's pulled away a little bit.
I didn't get any sleep.
We're getting ready for the advanced team to leave the pad at about T-minus 1 hour. So they're on track right now to close out. We did have a good side hatch leak check. And so we're doing just the very last steps to get the capsule ready for flight and then leave the pad. And of course, in the background, as you can see on the monitors or on your screens, it's blue skies over Kennedy Space Center, Pad 39A.
So
Weather's looking good, both in the local area as well as
we're gonna fix that today.
Northeast towards the space station The ascent trajectory
Gotta
looks
fix
good.
that today.
So T-minus 1 hour and 2 minutes. All systems are go.
Okay, sitting at T-minus 1 hour, 1 minute 45. Once the CAA retracts, they'll be arming the launch escape system or going through LES pressurization. This is from 39A, markers. Yeah, I agree with my bad. Yep. So, once they arm the launch escape system, that's when they go for fueling. SpaceX uses what's called a load and go type.
Well, you're looking at a live view of the Falcon 9 rocket and Dragon space.
SpaceX uses a load and go style of fueling, meaning that they put the astronauts on the capsule before fueling has happened. That's kind of different, a little different than how NASA's done it in the past. With NASA, with SLS, with the shuttle, with Saturn V, they would tank the vehicle or fuel it. It's called tanking. They would fuel the vehicle. I'm gonna stiff neck today. Excuse me. They'd fuel the vehicle and then move the astronauts to the pad, which is kind of been how they've done it for a little while. Now, why do you do that? Why would you fuel the vehicle and then put people on it as opposed to putting people on and then fuel the vehicle? Well, when you tank a rocket, you're going through a lot of different what's called transients. You're going through thermal transients here. So it's a very big change, especially if you're using cryogenic propellants, right? You're changing the configuration of the launch vehicle. You're taking it out of safe configuration and putting it into a launch configuration. When you do that, a lot of things change. And changing the configuration of the vehicle is something that's pretty damn dangerous. I'm not really... Hey, Dan. I'm not really too afraid of a rocket that's fully fueled, and I'm not obviously not afraid of a rocket that has no fuel in it. A rocket that's fueling, though, that's when it gets dangerous because you're changing a lot of things all at once. So if that's the case, why does SpaceX use load and go? Why do they put people on it if fueling is dangerous? Well, in order to maximize performance on Falcon 9, SpaceX is using a super chilled version of liquid oxygen. It's just, well, it's called densified liquid oxygen. They basically, the liquid oxygen is not a liquid. It's almost like a slush, like a snow cone. And basically, if they can get more oxidizer into the vehicle by densifying it, that means you can get more performance out of the vehicle. Because the more oxygen, the more fuel you can deliver to that rocket engine, the more powerful it can be. So SpaceX needs to fill up the propellants fast because the liquid oxygen is really, really cold. And it's not exactly cold in Florida right now. So they use a load and go type system. So the next couple of steps that you're going to see here is the closeout crews are going to, well, basically close out the crew access arm. They're going to evac the pad, and then they're going to move the crew access arm out of the way. And then after that, they're going to arm the launch escape system. Because people are close to this rocket, the 4 crew that's on board, because they're close to the rocket and they're fueling it, they have to make sure that their launch escape system is armed. Now, where's the launch escape system on Dragon? Traditionally in the past, launch escape systems have been a solid rocket that pulls the vehicle away from the pad that's mounted on the top. It looks like a little antenna on the top of a rocket. Dragon doesn't have that because up front there's a docking port. There's a docking port and a nose cone, so it doesn't have something like that. Dragon has an ILES, an integrated launch escape system. The launch escape thrusters are in these little nacelles that are on the side of the vehicle. And the launch escape system is an ejector seat for the capsule in case something goes wrong. Now, I don't think I need to tell you why the crew access arm, you don't want that in the way when they go to arm that launch escape system. You don't want the launch escape system trying to get you away from the pad and the crew access arm being in the way, because that won't get you away from the pad very quickly. So they're going to move that crew access arm away, and then they're going to start arming the launch escape system in preparations for fueling. Fueling should start around T-minus 35 minutes. So in about a half hour, give or take, little less than that. So is there a video of the ILES in use? Yeah, Moose. Hey, A-Tran, what's up, dude? What's happening? Which satellites are we launching today? The biological kind. Thomas linked up a video. There's the pad abort and the in-flight abort. NASA pushed SpaceX to really make sure that that integrated launch escape system was safe, because NASA was extremely skeptical of load and go fueling because of the dangers associated with fueling a vehicle. Once again, tanking a rocket and filling it up with gas is very dangerous. It's the most dangerous part, because you're changing, you have an already complicated vehicle and you're changing a lot of different things. You're changing pressures, you're changing temperatures, you're evacuating gas and filling it with liquid, cold liquid in this case, extremely cold. So that changes a lot of things on the vehicle. You don't want to put the vehicle into flight configuration. You want to, well, let me rephrase that. You don't want people near the vehicle when you're putting it into flight config. But once again, SpaceX has to do it quick in order to get the maximum performance out of Falcon 9 to move the 4 crew up into space. So they're using a densified liquid oxygen, which is extremely cold, which means they need to fill fast. Jay's probably covering something for NSF. Has everything been smooth? They didn't get a good seat on the hatch, but they resealed it. They opened it up and resealed it again. They were up on the timeline up until that. They were up on the timeline by about 15 minutes. Now they're basically right on the timeline. So we're still scheduled for a launch around 11:17. We're inside of 1 hour here. It's T-minus 55:30 on the clock right now. I never turn the engine off when I fuel my car up. The madman. The absolute madman. Yeah. So, yeah, the launch escape system basically needs to be armed if they're going to go with fueling. So that should be the next steps that you see here. What kind of launch window today? It's an instantaneous launch window to the ISS, Talon. The insertion inclination is 51.6, right? 51.6 degrees inclined for the ISS, launching on a northeast trajectory. So this thing's going to fly northeast off the pad.
Basically 4 thumbs up inside Crew Dragon right now. So really good news there.
Yeah, so continuing out our crew, moving on to Mission Specialist 1, Eitan Stiba will become the second Israeli ever to fly to space. In many ways, today's mission is a return to flight for the nation of Israel.
How often does the ideal shortest launch window line up? It happens more frequently than you might think, Sile. You can basically get to the ISS anytime the orbit crosses over Florida, which is pretty much like once every day. But the thing is, it's not just about getting into the ISS's orbit, all right? You ideally want to go when the ISS is over Florida and its orbit crosses Florida at the same time. Now they're not few and far between every week. That happens about once a week, give or take. I mean, there's it's nominal, right? There's a nominal window. Like, you can launch with the ISS a little bit behind, you can launch with it a little bit in front, you can launch with it right over. So there's every couple of days, there's the prime launch window, but this recurs basically once a week. Yeah, NASA designed that a lot because they designed that way on purpose to take into account a lot of launches to the ISS. So they picked an orbit. First and foremost, they picked an orbit for the ISS that was accessible from Russia, Japan, the United States, and Europe. All the international partners can launch from their own domestic launch sites to the ISS. That was the first and foremost thing. Second one is they picked a type of orbit that basically, well, there it is. See the white line? There's the orbit. They picked a type of orbit that allows them to be able to get to the ISS fairly frequently. This is Dan. Dan's NASA. He's a NASA PAO here.
Thanks, John. And the team behind me flying the space station, the crew on board, they're ready to get this first private astronaut mission off the ground. Back in 2019, NASA took steps to open the station up for business, issuing a directive to enable new commercial activity on board, including private astronaut missions. And all of this is done with the goal of building a robust economy in low Earth orbit. Now, why does NASA want to do that? Well, we're very aware that there is untapped potential in that space just outside of our atmosphere, and low Earth orbit can be a first step towards unlocking limitless possibilities.
On this July 20th, 1969,
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Greatness
Boy.
cannot always be seized in a moment. Sometimes it requires a first step.
Seemed like that was a good day.
A step into the unknown. Not knowing the path, but understanding the goal. Believing that the first step leads to greatness. We've touched the sky, believing it will lead to new worlds.
Skylab.
We've left our home, believing in a brighter future. We've come together, believing in shared goals. We've stayed and learned, believing in benefits for all.
I hope so, Gerb.
We take the first step time and time again because we've witnessed its benefits.
Vic!
And believe in its potential. So we're expanding and enabling this step for others to push humanity further as we prepare for the next giant leap. We'll always need this first step. We're here to stay. And now is the time to join us.
Good video. Danny.
And low Earth orbit is that first step. And for NASA, we're in it for the long haul. For the last more than 20 years, we've shown that you can get incredible value from doing research and technology demonstrations in low Earth orbit on the station. And along the way, we've continually increased our work with commercial organizations, flying research, payloads, entire facilities, experiments, and working with U.S. companies to fly cargo and crew to the station, the latter of those laying the groundwork for the mission we're seeing about to launch today. And we're continuing to look ahead onto the horizon, working with companies like Axiom and others to get a jump start on developing new destinations in low Earth orbit where future astronauts, and not just those from NASA, will be able to go and explore and do research just outside of our atmosphere. So we've got our sights on the horizon, and our ultimate goal is for NASA to become one of many customers in this new economy in low Earth orbit as we set our sights on deep space exploration, heading back to the moon and beyond under the Artemis program. Now, the AX-1 mission's a good example of the public and private partnerships that are going to make that future vision a reality. But to take a little bit deeper of a dive, let's jump over now to my colleague, Megan Cruz, who's standing by at Kennedy Space Center with NASA Administrator Bill Nelson. Over to you, Megan.
Good morning to you, Dan, and good morning, NASA Administrator Bill Nelson. Great to have you here, as always.
Good morning.
Well, I wanted to talk to you because we know that one of NASA's goals has been to enable commercial efforts in space. With today's Axiom-1 mission, the first all-private crew to the International Space Station, what does today represent for the agency?
We're taking commercial business off the face of the Earth and putting it up in space. And that's one of our main programs now, because we want to get NASA out of low Earth orbit and go explore the heavens. We want to direct our energy and our resources to do that, because we're going back to the moon and we're going to Mars. And so we want, for example, we're going to continue the space station for another 8 years.
Yep.
We want to have commercial space stations. NASA wants to become the ability to lease space on a commercial space station instead of having the responsibility of the space station.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about that, because I know that we've seen success with commercial cargo missions, commercial crew missions. Are commercial stations next?
Indeed. Well, that's what we're doing today. We are bringing a commercial company to our ISS. We are then going to have them attach a commercial module to the International Space Station. And then we're encouraging the building. We've got initiatives out there in private industry right now to build a commercial space station. And then all of our international partners on the space station, we're taking with us out into, for example, lunar orbit. The Gateway, which is like a space station in lunar orbit, is going to be a number of nations landing on the moon. We're going to have other nations participate as well.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of partnerships going forward with NASA to accomplish some of the big goals that we have.
Well, as it should be, because our program is internationally, and when we go to Mars, there's going to be a delegation from planet Earth.
Are you excited for today's launch?
Oh, is the Pope Catholic?
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Administrator. I really appreciate you being here, and I hope you enjoyed today's launch.
Thanks a lot.
All right, back to you guys at Hawthorne.
He's not wrong.
We're at T-minus 46 minutes, 10 seconds. We've just heard from the SpaceX launch director.
Brief the CE or LD, and they will approve aborting the countdown. For urgent issues affecting the safety of the operation, operators shall call hold on the countdown net.
Don't do it,
Control
Chad.
will abort the launch auto sequence and immediately proceed into launch abort.
Fueling poll is
At T-minus
complete.
10
Go for
seconds,
prop load.
launch control will be hands-off and relying on automated abort criteria for the remainder of the count.
FR4.
Operators advise the launch director whether structural breakup or fire is imminent occurring per Dragon manual escape flight rules. For those operators in firing group 4, in the event of a fire alarm, key operators noted in 57.83 will remain at their post while the alarm is evaluated. In the event that personnel safety is threatened, evacuate to the south-facing emergency exit, which leads directly outside. Firing group 4 and MCCX will go into a sterile cockpit and lock down for the duration of the time the launch escape system is armed. Launch control at this time, you may proceed with arming the crew arm for movement.
Okay.
Remember that, arming crew arm for movement.
T-minus 45 minutes and counting. You've just heard the SpaceX launch director give the final execution instructions to the launch team.
Access arm retraction started.
Watch that CA.
We're ready for propellant load. That'll begin in about 10 minutes. Before that, we've got crew access arm to retract happening now, and then arming of the launch escape system. Everything continues to look good for an on-time launch of Falcon 9 with Axiom-1.
There we go. All right.
Dragon SpaceX for tablets.
CA retract is good. You can see some of the manifolds there for the water suppression system down there.
As we prepare to step into LES arming, I need you to verify that the elastic bands are over the corners of all of the iPads in the vehicle.
Well, that's a step I never thought I'd hear, but all right.
Roger, stand by.
Reality is that we've heard that many times. Wait, what, Sneaky? No. Note the construction site. Starship pad back there, dudes.
All right, copy that. Thank you, MLA. And for awareness, that last call came in pretty quiet, so if you could speak up on the upcoming calls, that'd be great. Thanks.
Scottish, this is the first commercial mission to the ISS. This is all commercial. Going to a NASA space station for scientific research. Pretty cool. I agree, Phil. Yep, you come in. We got 4 on board. G-Man? It's Dragon Endeavor, Lunprod.
Okay, we'll give you an update here. Inside of 43 minutes, crew access arm has retracted from the Dragon spacecraft. Next up, we've got launch escape system arming. And then at T-minus 45 minutes, or T-minus 35 minutes, we'll begin loading propellant onto the Falcon 9.
I'm not sure.
So right now, Falcon 9s go, Dragons go. Weather looks good, and the range areas are also cleared for launch. So Kate, John, everything is looking good.
CIA retract is complete per mission director. Stand by for the launch escape system to be armed. That's the next step here. Checking the iPad batteries is actually a step on the checklist. I believe it, Coldfire. You leave no mental stone or no regular stone unturned.
Side of 42 minutes.
You got to be sure.
Everything continues to go well. Waiting now for launch escape system arming.
No, serious. They've launched. Dragon has launched a 2-man crew on DM2 and 4 4-person crews on Crew 1, Crew 2, Crew 3, and the Inspiration 4 mission.
Endeavor, SpaceX for launch escape system.
Okay, here we go.
Go ahead, Arthur.
All right, MLA, at this time I can give you a go to step through Section 7 of 4.100, close visors, and arm the launch escape system.
Okay.
That should work.
They're closing the visors down now because launch escape system. If the launch escape system happens, you risk. If the launch escape system does ignite, and hopefully it doesn't, but if it does,
SpaceX Endeavor visors are closed. We are arming the launch escape system.
you're risking cabin depress. So they put the helmets down now, and they're pretty much going to stay helmets down for a little while now. Yeah, it should be fine, Eukerman. Yeah. No, Jazzos, I haven't. I've been a little bit busy, guys. Yeah, they do, Moose, sometimes. Like I said, the two screens, the screens on the outside, so the screen on the left and the screen on the right, are the MFDs. That's
Dragon, SpaceX launch escape system is verified armed.
Okay, system is pressurized. That basically is the HUD, and then in the center screen is the checklist.
Copy, SpaceX.
All right, there you heard it. The launch escape system is now armed. You can see there the crew in their seats with the visors down. Launch escape system, is the first of its kind escape system. It provides escape capability all the way to orbit. It's a really important function to have. Obviously, no intention of using it today, but that's what those call-outs were there back and forth that we just heard.
Right, and as you heard earlier too.
So how would they arm the launch escape system? Well, the launch escape system is a liquid-fueled system, and what it does is it uses the spacecraft propellant that Dragon would use on orbit for launch escape. So it's using hypergolic propellants, which come in the form of nitrogen tetroxide as an oxidizer and monomethyl hydrazine as your liquid fuel. Now, if that literally made no sense, you ever seen Die Hard 3? When they combine the liquid together, it pops. Literally that's what hypergulls do. When the NTO and the MMH hit each other, they combust chemically. When they chemically combine, it forms combustion. So that's what they use, and that's the propellants that they use, and that's plumbed into 4 engines that are on the nacelles on Dragon. So there's 2 on each side. Those are actually clusters. There's 2 Super Dracos in there, and what the Super Dracos are it's a hypergolic rocket engine, non-gimbalable, fixed position, to be able to get that capsule away. There's 4 nacelles, and each of them houses 2 engines. So there's 8 Super Dracos total. And that will push the capsule up away if something goes wrong with the vehicle. If you want to see what that looks like, SpaceX actually did an in-flight abort a little while back. And you can actually see them firing and separating Dragon from a Falcon 9 that blows up right after that. But once again, as Kate said, you don't want to do any of that today. but you want to make sure it works too. So what they're going to do is the hypergolic systems, the Super Dracos on Dragon are actually a pressure-fed system. So they have the NTO tank, the MMH tank, and then there's 2 helium tanks behind those, right? And the NTO and the MMH tank have valves that lead to the engines. If they want to make the engines go, what they basically do is they open up the helium tanks, pump helium into the fuel tanks, and it basically shoots the fuel into the engines. Now, how do they do that? Well, the fuel tanks are a composite overwrap pressure vessel inside a Dragon. They're actually kind of below the astronauts, outside of the pressure vessel, so they're actually kind of down towards the heat shield. And how that system works is inside of the fuel tank, the fuel is inside of think of like a balloon. It's inside of what's called a bladder, right? They have a balloon that's basically inflated inside of the tank, right? And on the inside of the balloon, inside of the balloon is nitrogen tetroxide and hydrazine in their respective tanks. And when they pump the helium into the tanks, they pump the helium into the cavity between the bladder and the outside of the fuel tank, and that squeezes it and it pumps the fuel. It's a pressure-fed system. So they use helium pressure to squeeze the fuel tanks like you'd squeeze a sponge to get the fuel to go into the engines. Now, the cool thing about that is that system is also used for the reaction control systems on Dragon as well. They can use the fuel for either one. Because if you need to use the launch escape system, you're probably not going to use the on-orbit thrusters, because that means you didn't go to space today. But hopefully like they said, hopefully we don't have to do that today. But yeah, when they say the launch escape system is armed, that means they've pressurized the helium into the fuel tanks, but they don't have the valves open to the engines. So the system is pressurized. So if this launch escape system, if something bad happens, all they need to do is flick the valves open, or the computer will automatically flick the valves open into the engines, and then physics will take its course from there and get the capsule away. But once again, we're hoping that we don't see that today. Is that engine very simple? Guttle, this is why they use it because pressure-fed hypergolic engines are about as simple as you can get. Literally, in the rocket engine itself, there's no moving parts. Those valves that I were talking about that go to the engines from the NTO and the MMH, so the nitrogen tetroxide and the hydrazine, those valves, fuel injectors on a car, literally the same thing. They're not they're not exactly the same, but they basically work like a fuel injector. That's it. That's the system. It's just a solenoid it's an electronic solenoid that controls flow. Yeah, the hypergolic engines and hypergolic reaction control systems, most capsules use those. The Apollo capsule used it, the Gemini capsule used that, the Mercury capsule used that, if I'm remembering right. The Space Shuttle used it. Dragon uses it, Starliner uses it, Orion uses it. Everyone uses hypergolic because those hypergol propellants are the motor design is extremely simple, and B, hypergolic propellants, that nitrogen tetroxide and the monomethyl hydrazine, they stay liquids on orbit. They don't boil off, they don't freeze, they just stay there. They're chemically very stable by themselves. You combine them, they don't become stable. They explode. So yeah, they use that stuff for spacecraft. Like pretty much everybody does that. Why helium? To pressurize it. It's light. Helium is very light. Microwave, you got to remember, it's about mass. Helium is super freaking light. That, like at an atomic level, it's really, really tiny. And it's an inert gas, so not very reactive. The helium is used on spaceships all the time. Because once again, it's not weight. Helium, lighter than air, right? No, its mass is lower. And the gases have mass inside of their pressure tanks, and you have to take that into account. You can use nitrogen if you want to. There's nitrogen on Falcon 9's first stage. They use a nitrogen attitude control system. Same with the second stage. But remember, the nitrogen system is simpler, but the helium system gets you more performance. So you have to kind of pick and choose. There's always a trade-off. You get terrible impulse from the nitrogen ACS, to be honest with you. I wouldn't be surprised if they mix like helium into the nitrogen ACS or something to get better impulse and to maximize performance of the vehicle. I mean, I read about that in rocket propulsive elements. They do that.